Call April 14th, 2022 council meeting to order at 5:25 p.m. Machines are open for roll call. Let the record show 8 council members are present. Mr. Blink stepped out. Can we move to the two?
Agenda item 9H, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of not to exceed $45 million of revenue refunding bonds of the Parish of Plaquemine, State of Louisiana, in one or more series on a tax-exempt or taxable basis, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Councilmember Konovich.
I'll offer, ask for a second. Second by Mr. Roussel. Mr. Akers.
Okay. Thank you, council members. Jason Akers with Foley and Udell. The resolution before you is your final approval of an issue or issues, if circumstances dictate, of refunding bonds. And I clarified that they are refunding bonds. This is not new debt. This is actually refinancing of existing obligations of the parish. Refinancing a bond issue is a lot like refinancing your home mortgage. You have old debt that's at a particular interest rate. You take it out with new debt at a lower yield, and as a result, you save money. What we're trying to do is give you the ability to reduce and stabilize your debt service for the extended period, which will be through the current final maturity in 2042. These are very market sensitive and interest rate sensitive, so we're at the whims of the market for the foreseeable future. But with your approval, we have the authorization to go out and sell when the time is right. There are savings requirements and thresholds that we have to meet on a state law basis, and we'll be doing so. And the authorization that's granted is contingent upon meeting those savings thresholds. I'll be happy to answer any questions, but I just do really want to clarify that this is not new debt. This is just refinancing of extending debt, and it's with an existing revenue stream, the sales tax that's being levied parish-wide.
Thank you. Mr. Roussel?
Yes, you know my question all the time when we do this,
Yeah.
Less money, less payments, short, same time.
Not extending, right.
And because we're switching from general obligation to sales tax, enables us to be able to do this.
That is the plan. Yes, sir.
Okay. And I know you don't have any estimate of what kind of money we would save. But
we really don't. Last estimates, we're in a much more favorable market. We have seen rates rise since we talked about this. As you recall, you gave your preliminary approval, I believe it was in February, and we have state bond commission approval. We had to go through that process to be able to get here, and in that timeline, we have lost some of our savings as a result of market movements. I'm not a market predictor, so I can't tell you what they're going to do, but the only thing we can do is get the opportunity to get out there and sell when the time is right.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council, administration, audience?
Donald Valley. Jenny, you and I have talked about this before. We used to do this regularly on the LHC board with all the bonds and notes that we used to carry. It's a smart move to do. But we also required you, every time you came to our board, to give us a cost presentation sheet as to what we're saving in dollars over the life of the contract and what fees are being associated with it. And I haven't seen that. Can you address that?
Well, I can't speak to what happened at LHC. However, I can say that there are no additional costs associated with this over and above what the savings would be. In other words, the savings include all the costs that would be associated with any transaction. And we have a net savings threshold that we have to meet, meaning that we'd have to meet that savings, including all of the cost of issuance being paid. The costs get paid out of bond proceeds. They don't come out of the general fund. They don't come out of anything else. This is it's tough for us to say what those costs are going to be when we don't exactly know how much the transaction is going to be. It's not exceeding $45 million amount. It could be 30, it could be 20, we don't know. It, again, is going to be very contingent upon what the market allows when the time comes.
Thank you. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, the market is not stable at this point. It's very crazy. So I'm assuming that we're not going to just get out there to get rid of, reinvest, because it may wind up costing us more if we try to without being conservative on that issue. Because the taxation, patterns have been steady going up. And it's not, this the highest inflation rate, what, 40 years projected?
It's significant, yes.
Yeah.
However, there's absolutely no chance that we would go forward with a transaction that's going to cost you more money. That's not allowed by state law, and it's not something that we would recommend go forward even with this approval today. So.
Thank you, sir.
The reason I asked about the cost is that it's significant. You're playing the market for all practical purposes. Is it a good time now to go into it and refinance these bonds, or is it we hold off a little while longer? And it goes back to a cost analysis sheet that's standard in the industry that I've seen that shows your fees, all the other fees associated with it, and guess what savings you can over the life of the contract. So I think that needs to be evaluated by you all to make that decision. But overall, it's a good plan.
Well, I would disagree as to what is standard in the industry. Yeah, I've been doing this for nearly 25 years now, and we provide the information as it is available. Unfortunately, as I said, there's nothing we can guarantee as to this. However, what we can say is that you won't go forward with a transaction that's going to cost you more money. You won't go forward with a transaction that's going to cost you more in cost of issuance that exceed the savings. There will be a net savings threshold that's significant to the parish and has the added benefit of stabilizing your future debt service, which right now goes up and down over the next several years. So there are added benefits to that throughout.
Any other questions?
I do.
Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, y'all come to the board asking to refinance these bonds, but I never see anything saying what we've saved in our past bonds that we have refinanced. So,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So, have y'all had any success in past bonds that we can show the public that, hey, we approved this and this is what has transpired at the end result?
Yes, we have. And I would say, actually, I think we have provided that in a number of times in the past. And we have a running total that has been saved by refinancings over the last decade. That's something we can easily provide
right. You're correct. You have. But just because we have to vote on this today, I think some type of presentation would be nice. And I have to agree with Mr. Bartholomew. The market is a little crazy now that influx of prices going up. So is the sale tax going to continue to go up with the price of inflation? I think it's a very good question to ask. So what is y'all vision of that? Evidently, y'all don't see a difference of it not going down.
Well, there's I think a truth of a sales tax is that it's a function of the amount of goods sold, but also the price of goods sold. And so as the price of goods sold goes up, sales tax inevitably increases as a result. Corollary of that is that people have less money to disposable income to purchase things, so they are purchasing less. However, what we're seeing throughout the state right now is that sales taxes are remarkably, one, level over the last several months. Number two, have increased over since the pandemic began, because the state of Louisiana has done a much better job than it used to do in the past of actually capturing what we would call internet sales taxes or online sales taxes. Things that you buy from Amazon or Walmart online, et cetera, that get delivered to your doorstep, you actually pay tax on now, whereas you used to not do that. And that's a function of a U.S. Supreme Court case that was decided in 2019, and the state of Louisiana has benefited significantly from that. So your sales taxes have benefited as a result from those increased collections. To address, though, the amount of savings that you've seen, in the last two refunding transactions we've done, I think there's been a cumulative net present value savings in those two transactions of over $2.5 million. Now, I think that number is correct. It's $2 to $2.5 million, and we will make sure to get that number for you and provide it. But one of the things that investment investment professionals always tell you is that past performance doesn't guarantee future results. And so we want to just make sure that while we are saying something in the past that you've done, it doesn't affect what happens with this transaction. And with this transaction, it does stand on its own. And we anticipate that the savings would be significant, but there's nothing that we could guarantee at this point to provide for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Machines are open. Passes 9-0.
Thank you.
Next item, Ms. Becknell.
Moving to 9Q, a resolution giving preliminary approval to the issuance of not to exceed $5 million of hurricane recovery revenue notes of the Parish of Plaquemine, State of Louisiana, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Councilmember Konovich.
I'll offer, ask for a second. Second by Dr. Gouy. Mr. Akers.
Okay, thank you again, Jason Akers with Foley and Udell. This is a resolution to authorize us to proceed to the State Bond Commission for approval of what will eventually become a community disaster loan, CDL, from FEMA. FEMA has a program where they'll loan political subdivisions that have been impacted by various natural disasters up to $5 million to be used for various operating expenses, including but not limited to expenses associated with hurricane damage, in this case, Hurricane Ida damage. The resolution in Section 4 is specific as to the intent of this being for the community disaster loan. We do, however, have some legal formalities in order to allow us to make the application on your behalf to the State Bond Commission, and that is all that this allows for us to make that application on your behalf. Once it is approved, assuming that FEMA approves it, I don't want to get outside of my lane here with respect to what that process is. It would authorize the administration to go forward with approving the CDL and executing the documents associated with it. In past history, those CDLs have traditionally been forgiven by FEMA. I don't believe it's necessarily a guarantee, but again, past history has indicated that would happen.
Thank you. And this just gives you permission to go see if we could get them, and has to come back before us to vote on it to get it.
If that's what you would prefer, yes.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, $5 million limit. I believe after Katrina or somewhere I think it was $7.5 million community disaster loan, and it was forgiven, and we didn't have to pay it back. Is this the same?
It is the same. My understanding is that the limit is $5 million. Again, I'm not the FEMA expert, so I would, but the limit according to this resolution is $5 million.
And the next question is that what's the administration plan on doing with the funding?
Good question, fair question, Mr. Russo. Right now, we have $8 million of storm-related debt. But first and foremost, if we are successful getting this $5 million loan, our top priority would be the Port Sulphur water treatment plant.
Well, we have something to address that today as well. So
The first sign of money or that I get funds, the Port Sulphur treatment plant is our top priority.
okay, and I guess we're gonna be able to appropriate this money to projects.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
We're gonna be able to appropriate this money to some expenditure that we decide that we want to make.
Yes.
The point I'm getting to is that there are funds, that we have. For instance, we've got categories in our budget that have $2 or $3 million in it, but there's no cash.
Correct. But if I'm saying this right, Jason, if the money comes, the $5 million, does that come at one lump sum as a cash?
I'm going to yield on that one.
I guess that's a good question.
Typically,
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
yield.
Well, if we get the bond, we get $5 million from the bond commission.
not from the bond commission. This would come from FEMA.
Comes from FEMA, it's a CDL loan.
Specifically from FEMA, I believe it's available in one lump sum. But again, I don't know, and do you?
My only concern is that, we get $5 million and it disappears without us being able to appropriate it to projects that we want to make sure that we are paying for. Because the cash, you know how the cash is.
Absolutely. Well, my understanding was it was a $5 million loan that came to us through FEMA But
That's right.
I don't know if they can answer that too, but that was my understanding.
Can you come up to the mic and answer the?
Is that Ross
question?
Stan? Yes, Jamie and
No, it should be distributed as one lump sum for the 5 million.
Okay, and so,
Oh, I apologize. Jamie Welsh with Rossan Solutions.
okay.
Any other questions?
No, I'm waiting to see how it plays out.
Any other questions from the council? Administration? Audience? Machine's open. Passes 8 with 1 abstention.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Just a point of privilege before Mr. Akers leaves. The administration would like to send the condolences to Mr. Akers on Mr. Hugh Martin's passing, who was an icon here helping us in Plaquemines Parish. He passed away last week, and we sent our condolences when he passed away. But I just wanted Mr. Akers to know that Mr. Martin was a great guy who helped Plaquemines Parish out a lot. So thank you.
Thank you very much. He loved working down here, and not just because it got him closer to going fishing, but he really loved working down here. And we've received such an outpouring of support and kind words from a number of people in the parish, and we thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back now.
Moving to agenda item 5, bids and advertisements. 5A1, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of bids for furnishing one or more airboat and trailer for a period of 1 year for parish-wide and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Konovich.
I'll offer, ask for a second.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Blink. Ms. Brenda?
Hi, I just came this week to try to explain to y'all the wording of the bids that was in question last time. I've been here 15 years. This is always the way it's been written. We furnish one or more airboats and trailers for a period of 1 year for parish-wide use. I'll break that down. We ask for one or more. That way, the contract is not null and void after we buy the first one. The vendor is locked in to giving us a second airboat if we need it within that 1 year contract. So if something would happen this hurricane season and we lose,
Get that microphone in.
it's here. Maybe I have too close. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. We put one and more in there to where we keep the contract open for the whole year that we're asking them to give us a price for. So the vendor is locked down to that price for one or more. If we bought just one, at the end of that contract, it would be a dead contract. One or more leaves it open for the whole year. So if we want to go back and buy a second airboat later in that year, we are able to, and we're also able to extend it to other entities. And if you've ever heard the word piggybacking, I piggyback often from the state contracts and Jefferson Parish. So this allows them to piggyback off us and get the same airboat at the same price for a whole year. That gives everybody the opportunity to buy as many airboats as you want, because we said one or more. So that is really the breakdown on that. The one bidder that thought it was a rental, each bid specification is out for 15 days minimum, because normally I put it out on BidSync. We advertise in the local gazette. I have a bid list of anybody that is with that commodity that we mail the specs out to, and we put it out on BidSync. It's a national company, and they send it out to everybody that has that commodity that's a part of the BidSync family, or whatever you want to call it.
That's why I asked the question, because on our paper, it had, that one had a rental.
Right.
Other
So he had 2 weeks to call me with any questions on whether or not it was a rental or a purchase. So he was the only one confused. The other two vendors got it correct, that it was to be a purchase. And the language has always been that since I've been here 15 years.
Or maybe we shouldn't have put his bid on the
I
paper.
have to legally, because he submitted a bid, so I have to put it on there, but we don't have to accept that because it's not what we need. It's a rental.
All right,
So I have to put it on there because he sent in a sealed bid.
all right, thank you. Mr. Blink?
Sure. Are we going to name this one Ida?
We can.
Any other questions from the council? Administration? Audience? Machine's open. Passes 9-0.
Agenda item 5B, a resolution authorizing the purchasing agent to advertise for the disposal of surplus vehicles and equipment on an as-is basis through public auction conducted by Henderson Auctions. Councilmember Konovich.
I'll off, ask for a second. Second by Dr. Gouy. Ms. Brandon?
Okay, I have Henderson Auction here if y'all have questions for them directly, but I would like to point out a couple of things about them. They were already in place when I got here 15 years ago, and they make it very easy for us. When I got here, we had 5 people in purchasing, we're down to 2. So they were already in place when I got here in 2007. The internal auditor had a in-house audit, and he had some issues and questions, and when he reported to y'all, he left off some of my comments. It was in his report, if y'all want to go back and read that, but he didn't verbally say it to y'all, which left a little bit confusion. The auction is handled just like a sealed bid. We advertise it for 2 weeks in the Gazette. They are off-site. They come here, they pick it up, they take it away. We don't see it. We don't have to touch it. They handle the titles. They do everything for us and send us back a check. I was asked to look into other entities and see, if we could do it this way or that way. Any other company, not any other company, but some of the other companies that I was asked to look into, they would come here and do the auction, but then we would have to handle all the paperwork. We would have to handle all the titles. And for every bidder that bid online to come here, which they also offer online bidding, they would come here and I would have to meet 50 people and help them load it, make sure they get in the right piece of machinery. Then I would have to do the title, and it's just would be very, very exhausting on my department. We don't have the people, and not to mention I have a broken back now, so that's a different ballgame as well. But in the audit committee, one of the issues was about not knowing who the sellers are. So I went to the owner of Henderson Auction and said that the audit committee would like to know who the actual buyers are. And I submitted that to Mr. Duke, but he did not read that at the meeting. They stated that on a confidentiality basis that they would submit the buyers to the audit committee. They wouldn't want it to be public record, but they would give it to the audit committee and they could do whatever they would get the information that they wanted. I assumed that that would be enough to appease the audit committee. We're getting the information we need. Everything's up and up. You can see that nobody's brother-in-law is buying anything. It's all, up and up. And on top of that, I asked him to please go ahead and send me the information for the last audit. I sent that to the audit committee, so they received all of the buyers on all the equipment that we sent. It was all. So I'm going to ask you to keep my job easy and to keep everything going smoothly. And I recommend them highly. They've been very good to us, that y'all continue to work with Henderson Auction. They're here to speak for themselves. If y'all would like for them to come up, I don't want to answer any questions on their behalf, but I wanted them to have the opportunity to defend themselves if that would be the case.
Well, I just like to, if we had tractors or lawnmowers out there that we have numerous same type, start stealing some parts off of it, so we'll have some.
By the time I bring something to auction, they
I know
usually
the
push,
truck out
pull,
there, we ain't
yank, and
getting much
everything
off of it.
onto those trucks. I mean, I have to beg the departments to please leave the tires on there so we can at least roll them, because they're not starting. They're not, they're in pretty bad shape. So I think they do pretty good giving us the money for the stuff that we actually send away.
Thank you. Mr. Roussel?
Thank you, Brendan. I don't want to make your job more difficult, but I also want the transparency on the sales. Now, I'm not sure where Henderson wants to come and address this, but after you sent, and we had to go through a lot of effort to find out who purchased our equipment, there was an issue in there. We have, we shouldn't be having parish employees going to the auction that are coming with equipment from the same department.
I'm not aware of any.
I am aware of it, and, you can come up, and if we cannot have an agreement that you're going to provide us with the purchases, then I'm not going to vote for this. And I'm going to encourage us not to vote for it. Because this last auction, and I didn't bring this to light, but I'm bringing it to light now because of the pitch that I'm hearing.
And they're more than welcome to come up and defend themselves or whatever, but they're in Livingston Parish. So if a parish employee goes up there to bid, I can't, I
Brenda,
have no idea
this is my
of
point.
that.
My point is that if we never know that our employees are sending stuff to the auction and then going up there and bidding on it, we don't know that unless we get the list of the purchasers that are purchased at the auction. And just so happened that we pushed the issue because it came up in an audit. And that audit,
I was not aware that y'all needed that before that audit.
I know.
mean, so once
I
that
don't wanna
became
argue
up
with
in,
you,
I'm
Brenda.
not
I'm
trying to
just-
argue either. I'm really
just
not.
pushing
I'm
my
just saying,
point right in,
once-
that we got to have the purchases of the equipment.
Once Mr. Duke told me that it's, y'all wanted that, I called the owner. He was talking to someone other than the owner. I called the owner directly and said, we need help. The audit committee is requiring this. I have to have it. I got
Let him
it.
speak for himself, because that's
Okay.
what's going to count for me.
Thank you, Councilman Russell. I'm Lawrence Green. I'm the CEO of Henderson Auctions. I'm joined today by Jeff Henderson, who's one of the principals and owners of the company. We have been your auctioneer since, actually you hired us, or your administration hired us when you were parish president, Mr. Russell, back in, I believe 2005 was when we started. We went through the audit process, and they asked that we have our contract amended to include a right to audit, which was something that you've added to contracts down here. We've done so. We offered that agreed on language that had been used in the past, with the only added exception that we asked that our customer list just not be published, because we pay a lot of money for that. We've been in business since 1957. We have many thousands of bidders, and that is the most valuable asset that an auction company has, is we develop those customer lists over a long period of time, spend a lot of money on advertising, spend a lot of money cultivating those names. But we have no problem in an audit process, if you want to audit any of the auctions that we have that are of your items, we have no problem providing that to the auditor, so long as that information is not published.
Let me be clear here. You just happen to come up in the random wheel of an audit.
Mhm.
We don't single out anybody to audit. We have a process, and it's a process that we pick contracts. If there's 100 contracts, we might pick 5 contracts, and we audit that. I don't want to be gunning for anybody. And
We're not offended by the audit at all. It's no problem.
yeah, you're missing my point. I don't want to have to go to an audit to find out who we're selling our equipment to. I want it to be part of the contract that you have with the parish that says that when you auction our equipment, you send us a list of who you sold it to. And that we're not going to put it in the Plaquemines Gazette, or we're not going to go advertise it, but we want to know on a regular basis, because of the fact that we might not audit you for another 5 years.
I have no objection to that. We would need to amend the contract to reflect that with the agreement from the parish that if you were putting it in the public record, it would have to be redacted. If you want to review it for your own, your own sense of well-being about who's buying the equipment, got no problem, none whatsoever.
Well, I'm gonna vote for this today, but I think we have some hurdles to get over here.
I'd be glad to address any of them if you.
I just gave it to you. That's the hurdle. I want to make sure that when you sell our equipment, that we have a list of who purchases that equipment in the file of the purchasing agent.
I have no objection to that. We'll make that so. That'll happen. The buck stops with me, and I'll make sure that happens.
Well, then,
Every piece of equipment we sell, you'll have a name in the file. We'll amend the contract to reflect that, if that's okay, before we sign it. We'll amend the contract to reflect that, Mr. Russell. We'll also, though, require that information be kept. It's proprietary to us, and so we wouldn't want our customer list to be revealed.
You're requiring that it be redacted under a public records request?
That's correct. If we're going to provide it to you, we would. I don't care if you have it. I don't want it to be. It's very valuable to us.
Well, as long as you provide it to us, if we have a challenge on the public records law, then we'll have to litigate it then.
Yeah. I'd also like to address something while we are talking about this, because I actually think there's a misreading. I've had the same discussion with the parish president, and I would recommend an attorney general's opinion on this. It's the first parish that we've dealt with, and we deal with a lot of them. And you may be the ones that are doing it right, and everybody else may be wrong. I'll grant you that. But it's the first parish that
Let me say this.
I'm not talking about the audit. If you give me just a moment, What I'm saying is, I actually think that there might be a misreading of the language of employees or family members of employees buying surplus equipment. At a public auction, it's the high bidder rules who it is. I do understand the concern that you have that someone might be selecting something for auction because they have a personal desire to get it. I think that's something that should certainly be policed within your government. From the auction process, though, there are bidders that can sign up all over the world, and frequently do. Our auctions will have bidders from 48 to 50 states and multiple countries. Each one of them has that, and so it would be an impossibility for us to know who's related to who out there. That would be something that couldn't be done. There'd be no way to it. The best I would be able to do is something like a disclaimer on every piece of Plaquemines equipment that's listed that says if you are an employee of the parish or a family member of an employee of the parish or something like that, then please don't bid on this. But there wouldn't be anything else I could do about that. But I'm glad to provide it so that you can go and scold that person if they have bought it.
Well, look, I'm not here to try to litigate the legality of an employee going to an auction to buy it. I'm seeking information. And I know my colleagues down there laughing about best practices. I'm not a follower. I go by common sense and I lead. And in this case, one audit produced a sale to an employee. Now, I'm not saying that the employee did anything improper, and I didn't push it. I didn't go to the DA or the FBI or anybody else. But in the future, if we don't have the list, we don't know how to follow through on that. And if it becomes a pattern to where all of a sudden our equipment starts showing up at the auction and the same individual's buying it, I got a problem with that. But I don't know that. And we never know it. And when I hired you back in 2005, whatever, it wasn't an issue because that was Hurricane Katrina. I didn't even think about it. But I'm thinking about it now because we audited you and found that by accident. So again, the best practices, to me personally, this is the best practice for us to know who we're selling our equipment to.
No objection to it, and be glad to amend the contract and provide it with the stipulation that I've already stated.
Mr. Blank?
Yeah, sure. Is there any sort of rules that could be implemented where we're just dealing with this internally? In the employee handbook or in the civil service rules? I mean, it seems like y'all are doing a fine job and helping Brenda out and trying your best to make things easy.
I don't know of any that is in the civil service book, manual, whatever, but maybe we could add something in that states that, they cannot bid on any equipment. I think it's a given that most employees know that, but I don't know of any written rule. Would you know of any, Mr. Russo?
Look, I'm just trying to get the list in the file.
Oh, I understand. I don't know if there's any.
I don't either.
Okay, I don't know.
The list in the file, and agree the auctioneer is going to send us the list.
Okay.
If we want to do a deep dive in it, we can ask Mr. Garrett to go and do a deep dive in it.
No,
But-
I'm not trying. I'm
not either. I'm just trying to make sure that he understands
Yeah, we
the
got it.
contract we have. He will provide the list of the people who purchased the equipment. That's all.
And we will get that.
Mr. Blink?
And Mr. Blink, I guess we can talk to civil service and see if there's something that we can implement on that. I don't know that answer. I might have to yield to administration on that. I don't know.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you. Any other questions? Machines are open. Passes 9-0.
Thank you. Happy Easter to everybody.
Same to you. Back to the agenda, please. Move us back now.
Agenda item 2, executive session. 2A, executive session pursuant to LRS 42:17, A10, to receive attorney-client privileged information related to Plaquemines Parish Government versus Map Construction LLC, ATAL, case number 61-741, 25th Judicial District Court, Division B, Attorney William Culver, Councilmember Black. 2B, executive session pursuant to LRS 42:17, A10, to receive attorney-client privileged information related to State of Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development versus Plaquemines Parish Commission Council, 25th Judicial JDC, case number 67-318, Division A, Attorney L.B. Cooley, Councilmember Black.
I'll offer.
Mr. Black offers, I'll second.
On the the first item, 2A. Sorry. On the second item, 2B, which correlates to 9J, that's going to be withdrawn, both of those items. However, I wanted to give an update on what transpired for myself and the administration. I noticed a couple of folks who were in the audience earlier. I think they may have got tired and left. Ms. LaHaye is still here. So this item pertained to pertained to the state trying to purchase right-of-way properties from the parish at fair market value, I think 1.8 million and some change. I learned about that the last time we were in the Belchase Council meeting from the parish attorney. He wanted me to introduce the legislation at the time and then go to executive session. I told him I would not introduce legislation without reading it first. So we deferred that introduction until the Point LaHash meeting, which took place 3 weeks ago. During that time, Mr. Garrett can correct me if I'm wrong here. During that time, the state filed for a expropriation of all the properties. There was multiple properties. We were told this morning in a meeting, we had a meeting Monday with the stakeholders involved, as well as the parish attorney's office, who was looking into, after Mr. Garrett sent us a copy of the expropriation service that we received. The parish attorney's office was looking into it. Yesterday, this morning we had a meeting in which the state told us that the judge had signed the expropriation. So, am I wrong, Danny?
That's correct. Under the provision, all the state had to do is establish they needed it, and if they were using it for a public purpose, the judge ordered that they were entitled to it, which is changing them depositing the money in the registry of the court.
All right. So it pretty much makes this legislation moot. However, I do want to talk now, because y'all are in the audience, about what transpired since we have known about that. We were surprised last week, my office and the administration, I won't speak for Kirk, but my office was surprised to find out that the Fort St. Philip neighborhood, Mildred Street and Clarence Canal Streets, were going, Fort St. Leon, streets were, what did I say? Oh, oh yeah, I don't know, John. You know what movie? Yeah, right. Anyway, so basically, we were told last week that those two crossings would be closed on April 18th, which is next Monday. I called an emergency meeting with the administration. Ty was there, legal was there, the chief engineer was there as well to discuss that. We went and Kirk's office called trailer and DOTD and the school board. We had a subsequent meeting on Monday morning to discuss this. We pushed back really hard. We don't think that those two crossings should be closed right now. We think it was pretty premature. They basically told us that the reason why they needed to close is because LA 23 northbound lane has to be relocated east, which would butt up against the railroad footprint in order to do the bridge construction in the median. We thought that the scheduling was out of order. We pushed back on that. We thought that the J-turn that's going to be located just north of Burmaster at the racetrack should have been constructed first. I also thought that the road connecting Mildred to Planters Canal, Railroad Street, should have been constructed first. We also thought that mitigation should have been done at the foot of the bridge crossing East X across Highway 23 to West X. They said they would get back with the engineers and let us know. We had a meeting this morning, first thing this morning. I to discuss that. It was a lengthy meeting. They heard all concerns. Myself and the president's office expressed issues with safety. We think there are some serious safety issues. However, they have said that they are going to have to keep the schedule and close on the 18th. We expressed our concerns. They did, however, say that they were going to start the process, since this expropriation was complete, of the construction of Railroad Street, which they promised us would start this weekend. So that's where we stand with that. But I will say that we had a pretty good team assembled to push back on trailer and DOTD to make mitigations. They did promise also mitigations to be installed at the foot of the bridge where you cross over East X. We asked for a reduction in the speed limit, which they're going to look into to go from 45 to 35 along that corridor. So that's where we're at with that. And with that said, if anybody wants to say anything on it, it's open. Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Nancy LaHaye. I live 426 Planters Canal Road. Y'all can't get an injunction or something? Let me tell you something. This thing was pushed down our throat, okay? We didn't like it. They've forgotten about the whole community north of the tunnel. That's okay. We couldn't fight the establishment. We got the bridge. Then we were told, okay, Mr. Black, you told me that's out of your mouth, that before all of this happened, Planters Canal Road, you would go up to the railroad track, Railroad Street would be developed. You could go Railroad Street, Mildred to Burmaster. There would be a traffic light there. Burmaster right now is a disaster area. Even with Planters, nobody uses it. You can't. It's disaster. So what I'd like to know is, if this is going to continue right here on the 18th, I'd like for you to tell me, how do I go to Bell Chase after the 18th?
So let me answer some questions, Ms. LaHaye, and I appreciate you coming to speak. First of all, I don't talk out of the side of my mouth. I talk directly to you. I think you and I have had conversations when you call me. I give you answers. Sometimes you like them, sometimes you don't, but I give you the truth. The second thing is that it was all impression the entire time that Railroad Street would be constructed first, that mitigation would be done at Burmaster Street first. However, I literally learned about the closure last week. So you can ask Mr. Lapine how adamant I was and frustrated I was during the meeting Wednesday, Monday, and again today. I'm very highly disappointed in this whole process and the information that has not been shared with my office or with the community. So I'm on your side with this.
No, we
Okay?
saw a sign.
So I think that Burmaster Street is a catastrophe. I still think it's a catastrophe. I have a problem with the residents in the neighborhood having to go northbound, literally out of Plaquemines Parish to make a U-turn in Jefferson Parish to come back to Plaquemines Parish. I have a serious issue with that.
Well, you won't be able to do that, Bo, for one reason. The numbers of cars, certain times of day, especially in the morning, that are leaving our neighborhood, if they have to turn right and go to the filling station, make a U-turn, there's only room for 3 cars.
So
They're going to block all northbound
right,
traffic.
so we asked that question. We've asked every question. The answer to that question is temporarily until they construct the J-turn. So they're going to make a new turn, a protected J-turn system in front of Racetrack. They're going to remove the existing left turn there before Dale Avenue. They're going to allow traffic to cross 23 northbound to go southbound on LA 23 at Burmaster temporarily until the J-turn is constructed. We have issues with people making turns on Timber Ridge. The same issue, right? So making a left on Timber Ridge, you go to Zydeco or go down Timber Ridge, wherever they need to go, right? So they have promised us that as soon as I got the diagrams, I sent them out to the community, right? They have sent us the diagrams. They have told us that those projects would be completed in July. Now,
What do we do till, listen, This is
I
an
don't
extremely
disagree.
dangerous situation.
I do not disagree with you, Mr.
I have to take my husband 3 days a week to Belchase for physical therapy. How do I get him
I do
there?
not disagree.
How does the fire truck from Engineers Road, if we have a fire, get to us?
Mr. Epley brought that up. And
We have been totally blocked off.
Sheriff's office in there as well. We believe that this is premature because we thought that these mitigations and new traffic signals should be installed prior to the closures.
That
and the
makes
movement.
sense. It's silly.
And we have told them that.
And Ms. Lehman, if I inject, Mr. Black is 100% correct. We sat there. Also, DOTD or Trailer Mass, and one of them told us the study was done of all the cars exiting those neighborhoods, okay, on all 4 of those lanes. They assured us, I don't know who did the study, but they assured us that even closing Mildred and Planters Canal would still not affect Burmester or East X exiting. And we disagree. We sternly disagreed with that. Okay, so our goal was to say, make sure that Railroad Street is completed so we can get those people to Burmaster Street. Okay, that was our goal. And they also, we were notified with Director Epley probably about a week or 2 ago about the 18th. We sternly ejected it. We pushed for a meeting for almost a week. They would not meet. Finally, I said, you guys are coming here to meet. Oh, we're doing a Zoom, we're doing something. So we pushed them. When we finally got them to admit that we thought, like he said, we shutting it down prematurely. Now they got 1A, 1B, everything is in phases, okay? Our phase should have been Railroad Street first. Our concession would be to close Mildred down, leave Planters Canal open, and then work in phase. That's our phase. We don't make those rules, okay? Sometimes, I told Mr. Black Day, sometimes the smartest guy is the dumbest guy, okay? Because he might be the book smart, but he don't know logical thinking. Mr. Black made a bunch of great points today coming out of East X Street. But when we said, you're closing it down 18th without public notice, and their response to us was, we did an education of those people. We put door hangers. We did this, okay? And we said that again.
You mean for this 18th thing?
Yes, ma'am.
They showed us. They sent us an email with dates that they sent. It had public comment periods and meetings at the auditorium and door hangers. And I told them I don't care about that. There's been no direct communication with my office or to the president's office, to my knowledge. I'm not in that office, but to my office about the date, the exact date,
the meeting,
and about the scheduling.
That's it. The meetings, I agree. That all of the meetings they did, no one said that this was going to happen long before there was a road. How do I come from Gretna? How do I get to my house?
You're making a good point. It's exactly what I asked them. When you funneling people out of Burmaster Street to go south to Biloxi,
right,
people are turning into, you're going to have a traffic nightmare.
Yeah.
Now, supposedly, that's only going to be open a certain point of time that you'll be able to turn left. You will always be able to turn left to come into Burmaster, but it will be shut off eventually to turn left to go to Biloxi. Okay? So it would only be a left turn coming into Burmaster eventually.
Well, if I'm coming from Gretna right now, right after the 18th, if I'm coming from Gretna, how do I get back?
Burmaster. You'll be able to turn left.
So you can turn left.
Yes.
Of course. If you can make
it. Look, it has
I'm
been.
going to tell you, the traffic at about 3:30, and I don't have to tell you all that, it's backed up past the high school. So exactly how do I get in? I can't turn there. They're not going to let you in.
It's been frustrating to say the least. And it's not from a lack of trying. It's not from lack of communication. We have been begging them to try to refocus or shift their focus into closing half of it. We know that the lane has, like Mr. Black said, the right-hand lane of Belchase Highway or Highway 23 will be extended to the railroad. We understand that. But close one landing spot at a time. Okay? If we do that, I think it minimizes it. But they have other ideas, other phases. And so we have tried to mitigate. We've tried to drag our feet and not sell the property so we could push them a little bit different? But
But you can't file some kind of an injunction? This council can't, they can't file an injunction to stop this, not stop it completely. The bridge is happening.
Yes, ma'am.
But to stop, this is dangerous, to stop this from happening now until the Railroad Avenue is developed and there's a light at Burmaster.
Well, when he told me that when they did the traffic study and the amount of traffic that is leaving the neighborhood in the morning doesn't constitute for opening, then I knew something was wrong because that's inaccurate information. Okay, I know that. I know that.
Well, and it may not, I mean.
That's not to,
yeah,
that's
because
not to account
majority
for
of
school buses, people
Oh,
going to school,
listen,
people go, yeah.
You're gonna have children injured in this mess. Those school buses trying to get in and out of that subdivision is, I'm telling you, it's gonna be
Hey, we can talk about this all.
disaster.
I made that point to DOTD, and I put it on them. You can ask Kurt. I said in the meeting, I said, you're putting lives in danger. I said, I've had a great relationship with DOTD. However, every time I ask for something, it's about the warrants. Does it warrant? They have a book. They literally go through a book. If it doesn't meet the warrants, they don't do it. Okay? I told them then it's on them. It's on trailer. It's on DOTD. And that's all I could do.
Thank you. And if we get one more vote, we could shut them down quick.
Well, yeah, can we,
Mr. Blank?
let's do something. I mean it, do something now. Y'all gotta help us. This is terrible. It's terrible.
One vote. Yeah, so I mean, two things.
But if we can go, yeah, one more vote, anything you can do, but this is disaster. Not one of you would want to live in what we're gonna have to put up with for who knows how long. To leave my house right now, I'm not even sure how I go to Burmaster. Well, you could go up Mildred, but they're shutting off Mildred. So I have to meander through somehow the back part of the subdivision and come up to get to Burmaster Street. And then you have to go around all of the concrete trucks that block the road. So I'm telling you, you guys need to come and drive around over there. And somebody needs to help us. This is disaster.
We feel your pain, Mr. Blank.
I can't believe that the state, that there's no help, there's not anything that anybody, you people can't do to not stop it, slow it until it's properly done.
Mr. Blank?
So two things. This is what happens when we vote for small government. We get it and we hate it. We're public infrastructure projects should not be run and managed and built by private companies. That's a line that maybe we shouldn't be crossing. And the thing is, this council should have stood together with the people. And, we went round and around and around for years. And the thing is, we tried. We tried. I just can't change people's minds.
We're closing it on the 18th of April. Well, when is the proposed completion of this bridge?
24.
Yeah. So they're closing us off 2 years in advance.
Certainly. So, I mean, the other part of this is, sometime I'm looking around the neighborhood, not the neighborhood, but around the northern part of the parish. And I mean, I see where work is happening, and your place just isn't being prioritized. There's turning lanes going into other neighborhoods and such. But I mean, we've got a reckoning to deal with here around infrastructure in Plaquemines Parish. There's about to be a real big slug of industrial development, whether this council seems to like it or not. If you heard earlier, on the low side, 150,000 containers annually. That's something like 400 and some odd truck crossings daily through Belle Chase, extra traffic. Sediment diversions likely to be under construction. The construction of the terminal itself will be happening. And then Venture Global's second phase all at one time. Belle Chase is getting ready to be an industrial hell. I don't know how people up here aren't saying in good faith, maybe it's a good idea to just sell your house, because I don't know how we're going to deal with the infrastructure, and there's no real solutions. And clearly our officials up here have no power with DOTD, that they think they might be in the good old boys club. So I do empathize with you about what's happening.
This is dangerous. We're going to have to put our lives. I asked a police officer, What do? Go to Burmaster and I just count to 3 and go? Because that's what it's gonna be.
I think that
There's no light,
you know,
there's no nothing.
maybe you should get everybody in your neighborhood to start calling some other agencies that are responsible for public safety, maybe the sheriff's office, to get somebody out there every day, and maybe then some things might start to change
Somebody's
here.
gonna have to get out there because I can tell you, we're not gonna, and heaven help if you've got to get an ambulance or anything in there. Well, at least they have a siren and they have lights. We don't.
You finished?
But this is,
I'm-
y'all need to rent a bus. Anybody voting against or not for this thing to do something about this, get a bus and take a ride in that neighborhood and see what this is gonna do. There's several people already gonna put their houses up for sale. Good people that have been there, raised their kids there since they were little.
Mr. Roussel?
May I take a bit of privilege though and ask you something, Chairman? Is there any legislation to reconsider the?
It'll be coming up soon.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess it doesn't do any good. It's just gonna happen and nobody's gonna do anything.
We need one vote. We need one vote to
Well,
get a
obviously,
declaratory judgment
can't
against the
get it.
state.
They need to drive through my neighborhood.
We still go in executive session.
Follow me around one day.
I don't get a chance to talk.
Rob Forshey. So, Fort St. Leon #1 is in the redistricting legislation. We that is going to become District 5, right? So, with that becoming District 5, Benny, were you invited to this meeting this morning or the other meetings all about this? You are the District 5 councilman, so since this is not going to be completed until 2025, and that area is going to become District 5, were you invited to sit down at the table and try to come to an agreement as to what needs to happen?
No.
Okay, so once again, we have the 4 councilmen that are against going and trying to get a declaratory judgment, which the Attorney General has continued to say.
Order, Mr. Chairman, the declaratory judgment has nothing to do.
Oh, yes, it does.
It has nothing to do.
This was a discussion. We got to go into executive session.
Yes.
And
This is about the bridge, right?
It was about the expropriation of land.
So the 4 councilmen that refused to side
And
to
this was about the expropriation of the land, and we have to talk about that. And the other ordinances about map construction. So, thank you, Mr. Ford.
well, it's sad that people are not represented on this council. That's the sad part.
Machines are open.
Well, hold on. 2B is withdrawn. 9J is also withdrawn. And I'm offering for a vote 2A for executive session.
9J, you said?
9J, yeah.
All right, we're voting on going to executive session on 2A. Machines are open. Mr. Roussel?
Getting punch drunk sitting here listening to this.
And vote passes 8-0.
Yeah.
Let the record show going to executive session at 6:24.
I get it from both sides. Yeah.
We come back from executive session at 6:36 p.m. with no binding action. Mr. Black?
Yeah, we have two actions I want to address about this executive session. The first one is 11A1.
Yes, sir.
And she passed out the information. Yeah.
And this is for suspension of the rules.
Yes, sir.
11A1, a resolution authorizing partial settlement of Plaquemines Parish Government versus MAP Construction LLC, ABC Insurance Company, Travels Casualty and Surety Company, Seislers, Thompson, Brown Architects, Project Design Group LLC, and XYZ Insurance Company, matter number 025//61-741B, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Black.
Suspension.
Mr. Black offers for suspension. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Alborough. Any questions? Machines are open on the suspension only. It passes 8-0.
A resolution authorizing partial settlement of Plaquemines Parish Government versus MAP Construction LLC, ABC Insurance Company, Travelers Casualty and Surety Company, Seislers, Thompson, Brown Architects, Project Design Group LLC, and XYZ Insurance Company, matter number 025/61-741B, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Black offers a second. Mr. Alborough seconds. Any questions? Machines are open. Passes 8-0.
Mr. Chairman, the second item, I don't see it. Mr. Culver, Ms. Toops, could y'all convene with Mr. Payne? I was told that the second item was introduced.
But it was combined onto one.
Oh, so it's combined under one resolution? All right, we were told in executive session that it was separated.
Oh, there's one paragraph, there's the architect.
So we got one resolution. So, okay, all right. All right, that's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elvie. Thank you, guys.
We have another
No,
suspension.
you good.
Go with Mr. LaFrancis suspension.
A resolution authorizing and directing the parish president to enter into any and all legal agreements with private landowners to provide right-of-ways and servitudes required to allow Plaquemines Parish the ability to perform all necessary dredging, debris removal, and cleanout in Wood Park, Timber, Rojas, and Deer Park canals, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
Mr. LaFrance offers for suspension. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Roussel. Mr. LaFrance.
Yes, this is to do with the Suzie Bayou project, the dredging of Suzie Bayou project.
Okay, any questions? Machine's open on the suspension.
Just a reminder, it needs a unanimous suspension because it was not on the agenda.
Yes, ma'am. They have a
resolution authorizing and directing the parish president to enter in any and all legal agreements with private landowners to provide right-of-ways and servitudes required to allow Plaquemines Parish the ability to perform all necessary dredging, debris removal, and cleanout in Wood Park, Timber, Rojas, and Deer Park canals, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
So offer.
Second.
for the suspension.
For the suspension, yes.
We voted and passes 8-0. Now,
A resolution authorizing and directing the parish president to enter into any and all legal agreements with private landowners to provide right-of-ways and servitudes required to allow Plaquemines Parish the ability to perform all necessary dredging, debris removal, and cleanout in Wood Park, Timber, Rojas, and Deer Park canals, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
So offer.
Mr. LaFrance offers and Mr. Roussel seconds. Any questions? Machine's open. Passes 8-0. Back to the agenda, please.
Item 3, proclamations. There are none. Item 4, status report by the parish president.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few things here. Tomorrow is a parish holiday, honoring Good Friday, so there will be no garbage pickup on that Friday collection. However, there will be dumpsters set outside of the compactor sites. So we encourage people who want to bring their garbage to the dump, please do it. Repaving of Highway 23 was supposed to start on April 18th. It would be night work starting from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. But after consideration, the state called back and said the contractor has postponed that because there will be work done at the intersection of 406 and Bell Chase Highway 8 to 3 for about the next 2 weeks, sewing up some stuff that they need to fix before they do the overlay. They didn't want those two projects overlapping. So once the overlay starts, it will be 7 p.m. at night till 5 in the morning, and it will be alternating lanes as they go down. So that will take about 3 months to do that. The cemetery task force is meeting at the Bell Chase Library Saturday, from 11 to 1 for the residents in Ironton or in West Point, Lahash. We have a parish cleanup day starting on February 23rd on the East Bank, and it's on February 24th on the West Bank. April 23rd. It's a Saturday, 8 to 12. They're meeting at the Dave Vance Center and the Braithwaite Auditorium. On the 24th, they'll be meeting at the Bell Chase Auditorium, the Beerus Auditorium, and the Port Sulphur YMCA. Those are 8 to 12. We encourage our residents to come out.
Joseph Ben Park also.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Joseph Ben Park too, 8 to 12. All right. We will have a brief presentation by Rostan, very brief. When I finish my presidential address, I'll ask them to come up. There is a young man from Bell Chase High School I'd like to recognize. I usually follow athletics on all the schools, but this one I have to recognize as a young freshman. I don't think, is he here, Brock? His name is Brock Gross. He's a freshman, and he came in second in the state in men's gymnastics. Lo and behold, did I know we had a gymnastics team at Bell Chase, but we don't. We have one guy. So he competed, and he came out second in the state. So I really wanted to congratulate the young man. I spoke with him, and I think that's a phenomenal feat for a young guy who's following his dream. And on the last note, I'll get well wishes go out to Robin Thomas, our security who was not here. She's been ill. So we wish her well and get well soon. We'll see you then. So with that, barring any questions, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call Rostan up to do a presentation.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carlos Ardondo. I am with Rustin Solutions, and we are the program manager for disaster relief and public assistance for Plaquemines Parish. As all of us are aware, on August 29th of last year, Plaquemines Parish was hit by a Hurricane Ida as a Category 4 storm, devastating a significant portion of the parish, including private property, critical facility, water control facilities, and many other areas. Before the landfall of Hurricane Ida and immediately after, Plaquemines Parish Administration activated all emergency preposition contracts and commenced the protective measures and recovery process. That included flood fighting, temporary pump stations, sandbagging, dewatering efforts. That was by cutting purposely the levee system to allow the water to recede faster, given the amount of water that was still in the parish and the incoming Nicholas storm. Also, as part of the emergency protective measures, there was some rocking of the levee. That was to stabilize the levee and allow it to be the main evacuation route as Highway 23 was inundated. As part of the emergency protective measures as well was the debris removal operations. The debris removal happened on all the right-of-way areas where the parish has authority over that, including the roads, the levee, and waterway, where it presented an immediate threat to life, safety, and improved property. Once the emergency protective operations were stabilized, the administration moved forward with the contracting of pre-qualified A&E firms to perform assessments to catalog and estimate damages to critical facilities such as water treatment plants, pump stations, levees, navigable navigable waterways, and communication towers. In order to maximize the federal assistance provided by emergency declarations, we work closely with the directors of each department, legal department, and Mr. Lapine to develop the most comprehensive damage inventory to be presented to FEMA by the deadline dictated by the program. This exercise resulted in the discovery and recording of 75 damaged elements and structures across the entire parish. These structures will require extensive repairs to be brought back to pre-disaster condition. The damaged items were then grouped into projects which were created within PPG requests for public assistance. There are 32 projects right now created in this grant program. 6 projects were for emergency protective measures, as I mentioned before. It was for preparation for the landfall, evacuations, flood fighting, access roads, etc. There are 6 projects for debris removal operations. This was for right-of-way debris removal from roads.
You have a
What?
slide on that?
Excuse me?
Oh, you have a slide on that, this information?
Yes, sir. We can so we have for the roads, for the those were 2 for emergencies, which I already showed for debris and emergency protective measures. As we move towards the permanent work, we have 3 projects for roads that includes public roads, including the community of Ironton, Myrtle Grove, Happy Jack, Lake Hermitage, and other access roads. We have 4 projects for buildings and equipment, mainly Plaquemines Parish. 3 projects for water control facilities. This includes the levees and the pump stations. As we know, the levee in the East Bank was overtopped, and there was scour that happened, and the levee, the entire levee of the East Bank suffered some reduction of material. They are currently producing an assessment of the levee to determine how much material was lost and the type of repairs that need to be considered. We also have 4 projects for buildings and equipment. Mainly, these are Plaquemines Parish government buildings and and other government buildings such as fire stations, EMS living quarters, and content and equipment, respectively, to each structure. We have 3 projects for utilities and communications. That includes the water treatment plants, lift stations, communication towers, etc. As it was discussed before, the main priority is the Port Sulphur water treatment plant, which went completely underwater, and it's currently inoperable. We also have 6 projects for parks and others, which includes marinas, harbors, ballparks, ferry landings, and fencing across the parish. We have 1 project for administrative costs, which will include the consultant fees and admin force account labor. The permanent work to be completed has affected the entire parish in one way or another. This damage is stretched from Belle Chase to Venice and from the West Bank to the East Bank. In this graphic, we can show how each department was affected directly or indirectly by the damages from the event. District number 1 is accounts for about 24% of all the damages incurred by the event. The estimated cost for recovery of District 1 is $4,320,000. Once again, that is a projection at this time. There have not been assessments performed to all of these structures at this point. District number 2 accounts for about 8% of the damages and roughly $1.4 million. District number 3 accounts for 3% at roughly $540,000. District number 4, in the same situation, is about 3% for $540,000. District 5 is roughly 4% at $720,000. District 6 is 1%. It's mainly lift stations that have been recorded to be damaged and they will need some assessment and repairs, and it's approximately $180,000. And then District 7, being the second hardest hit district by the event, they have approximately 21 structures that were damaged to in different levels, but includes a lot of critical facilities. And this accounts for about 29% of the damages incurred by the event, and the repair projected cost is $5,220,000. District number 8 is approximately 11% of the damages at $1.98 million, and district number 9 accounts for about 17% of the damages at $3,060,000. The total projected cost for the repairs needed to all damaged facilities is roughly 18 million, for which FEMA will be responsible for 16,200,000, and the parish will have a cost share of 1.8 million. The total projected cost for the disaster, including emergency work, permanent work, and administrative costs, is roughly $45.3 million, with a total cost share for the parish of $3.4 million. Plaquemines Parish government has requested and received reimbursement from federal funds in the amount of $11,184,552.70 for expenses incurred during the emergency period, which amounts to roughly $29,599,000. The administration was successful in the fast reimbursement of funds thanks to the carefully planned method of request, which included expedited PWs from FEMA and express pay from the state. Although we are working hard on having funds obligated for all the permanent work, the public assistance program does not release funds for permanent work until the work has been completed, since there are no expedited options as there are for the emergency work. The only efforts performed so far for permanent work have been directed to water treatment plants, pump stations, communication towers, and marinas. All other projects are still awaiting for the approval of the parish to determine what work will be pursued based on their financial resources. That is all I have right now. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
I got one on District 9, that list that you showed.
Yes, sir.
That's the full list?
For District 9?
9.
That is what we have had reported. Yes, sir.
'Cause I don't see Tidewater Road putting rocks on the side that washed out.
Surely add that. I mean, that's just
We
an
do. Excuse me, sorry.
that was more just an overview, but that's definitely we can add.
We don't want it to wash out the whole road.
We understand.
We do have a project for roads as a whole for the parish. That is one of the 3 projects that we have for roads. So just because it's not specifically pointed out at this point doesn't mean that it won't go into the projects. If those were roads that were damaged, we do have a project for the roads of the parish.
Thanks. Dr. Gui?
Other than what you mentioned, do we have a complete list of priorities, or we just went through the one you mentioned?
At this point, we have the critical facilities as the priority. Yes, sir. That is what we have at this point. It's up to the council and the parish discretion to determine what is the priority.
Mr. Roussel?
Can you provide us with a list of what you have so we'll know whether we need to add something to it or not?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And your presentation as well?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Blank?
Oh. Yeah, sure. Do you think some of this FEMA funding for rectifying some of these issues that happened during Hurricane Ida can account for future conditions and not just replace one for one of which we lost? For instance, at the Port Sulphur Water Station, it seems that any sort of sensitive equipment, control panels, electric motors, etc., and generators need to be elevated above what we could reasonably expect to be damage from future storms. We just heard from the Corps of Engineers that it doesn't look like there's going to be full protection there until approximately 2026.
We are taking that into consideration. That is going to be on a project-to-project basis, and once again, it will be presented as a mitigation plan, and it will be a decision that the councilman or the parish will have to make. Now, at this point, the $18 million that we are projecting is not taking into account any mitigation. That is just to bring it back to pre-disaster condition. Any extra cost above that will have to be determined once the assessments are completed and we have moved forward with those projects. All that being said, there is FEMA funds for mitigation of these facilities.
Thank you, Carla.
No problem.
Any other questions? Mr. Roussel?
No, I wasn't finished, but the PWs, we're writing PWs?
We are writing projects, yes, sir. Those are the projects that I mentioned before, and we already have some PWs, and that's how we have gotten the 11 million obligated.
And so that's what I was going to ask next. 11 million has been obligated by FEMA to date?
Yes, sir. Obligated and paid.
And paid?
Yes, sir.
So we've already received 11 million?
Yes, sir.
Is that for debris removal and so forth?
Yes, sir. That is debris removal and emergency measures.
It would be good to know exactly, where we stand financially with, for instance, that question next, how much more are we looking for PW and obligations versus how much has been denied or where we stand. I mean, we need a financial picture, as I think that, we need to be able to decide on the priority list when we get to it.
Yes, sir. We can definitely provide that full report. At this point, we know that all of the emergency work, or most of it, because we still have some temporary pumps out until the permanent pumps are fully operational. But up until this point, the debris removal is completed, and most of the emergency work is completed, and we are looking at $29,599,000. Off of that, we have already received $11,184,000.
And that's 100% reimbursement?
Part of it is everything that happened within the first 45 days of the declaration is 100% reimbursable. The rest of it is got a 10% cost share.
So will your report break it down to tell us
Absolutely.
what our obligation is on our 10%?
Yes, sir.
75-25 or 90-10?
90-10 for the disaster. Yes, sir.
We need to, once we get that information, we can start making some evaluations.
Absolutely. We can provide that very soon.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to, I talked to you earlier, I talked to Mr. Epley about the fire marshal's findings. And to think, we have them here. The fire extinguishers all expired. I didn't know where the fire system was or the sprinkler system, but they haven't been doing any of the buildings.
Miss Jane Roy, who is the new building superintendent, is following up on that. I got with her and told her that we need inspections done immediately on everything, and we need to follow up on the companies that have billed us for coming in here and filling fire extinguishers and checking fire extinguishers and things like that. She is currently getting all of that information together for us.
I appreciate it because I got the printout just from last year on the Bureau's auditorium, and we paid close to $2,000 for all the inspections and the monitoring. None of it works.
She's gathering all that information right now, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Russo.
I would suggest after we do an assessment and find out how much we've paid them and how much they didn't do, that we go back and ask for a credit. And Mr. L.V. Cooley in the legal department might be able to send them a strong letter if they didn't complete the contract. I appreciate that, Mr. L.V.
We'll look into that, yes.
Because we've been paying and haven't been working.
Yes, sir. Figuring it out.
Mr. LaFrance?
Yes, Mr. Lepine, where are we at with the resolution for using Diamond Park with FEMA?
I'm probably didn't hear you.
Where are we at with the resolution with FEMA using Diamond Park?
We, I spoke with you that the other day that they asked for a right of entry. And we did not like the right of entry they presented to us. We in turn sent them a right of entry that I signed, and they did not sign it because the condition was that we put in our right of entry. If we gave them right of entry, the park would be designed for Plaquemines residents only. And they denied that and said they couldn't sign that. The right of entry that they gave us was they would do a right of entry and 2 weeks later they could start building a park. Now, that's fine and dandy, but I'm more concerned about our residents, and I want it obligated for our residents. If you know the corner of Jefferson Parish and Plaquemines Parish, they put in a 30-unit trailer park. None of our residents are getting a benefit of that. So I stood firm and said, you could get right of entry, but it has to be designed for our people.
Well, yesterday when I stopped in Diamond Park, there was someone from FEMA that was doing a evaluation. They was measuring. So.
Well, they didn't sign it on their end. I signed it on my end of our right of entry. So I don't know what they were doing. Yeah.
Mr. Roussel?
Yeah, to be clear, you said that the right of entry they gave you excluded or included other people other than Plaquemines residents?
Correct. FEMA would not sign the one that we initiated because it wasn't broad enough that when FEMA does it does it for everybody.
Right, I misunderstood what you first said. I thought you said that it didn't.
Well, I know they did that after Katrina.
Well,
I was gonna do one and I wouldn't agree to anybody, so.
Look.
While we're on this topic though, we got 1,000 people coming down here looking for places to live. Are we making any progress on developing the Diamond Park for Venture Global contractor employees?
Well, our goal is to maybe do an RFP to let somebody else do it. We don't want to be in the landlord business again. We go back and forth with that, but we are actively looking to set up an RFP process to initiate and utilize the rest of the park for
How far away are we from getting that done? Because we've been talking about this for quite a while.
I would work on it. It maybe slipped through the cracks. We'll get it as fast as we can. My engineering.
You've got a camper. You know how nice it is to travel around with a camper, don't you?
What's that?
Mr. LV.
Yes.
You have a camper?
Yes, I have a camper.
Well, you know how nice it is to be able to travel. Could you help us and get something going for us to develop a RFP?
Travel.
I'm serious about this. We got to.
Yes, sir. Look, there's an opportunity here, and we will explore it. My main goal is I spoke with Mr. LaFrance, is to try to utilize some of that park for FEMA people for our residents.
I have four different companies.
What's that?
I have 4 different companies that want to make proposals.
Well, we will, as soon as we get it, I will definitely let you know. You can get them out to those people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all, Mr. President?
I think, is that it? I'm good.
Next item, please.
Item 4A, update by charter directors, 1 old business, 2 new business.
Anybody have any questions? You got emails? Ms. Newberry?
Has anybody had the latest on Entergy? I can't seem to get in touch with Joni. Todd, I heard you having trouble getting in touch with Joni. We have a lot of lights out parish wide. We'd like an update.
Last conversation I had with Joni was Entergy was looking into bringing in an outside contractor to address the issue of streetlights. I have spoken with Joni within the last week, so it's not an issue of getting in touch, but there is a list, and the list is long, of streetlights that they need to address. I will certainly check with her again and see where Entergy stands on getting those issues addressed.
Yeah, I'd like to know if they signed a contract with someone or when they looking to sign a contract. We have a lot of residents calling quite often to see, where we stand with that.
I'll get you an answer.
Thank you.
Mr. Blank?
Sure. We do pay monthly or quarterly for those streetlights, correct?
I don't know how often we pay, but we do pay for them. Yes, sir.
All right, and then another thing, I appreciate the administration's help looking into getting some relief for those folks in Empire that have a FEMA trailer parked in the yards for some months now, and there's just a 1-foot section of pipe preventing those elderly folks from getting in. So I do appreciate y'all's continued daily action towards getting those folks back repatriated on their property. Thank y'all.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And one other thing, talk to Scott about it. You think I could get my lawnmower back before it needs to be cut?
We'll get you a lawnmower. I promise.
Thank you.
This time, don't wreck it.
I didn't wreck it. The storm wrecked it. I was busy with other stuff when the storm came.
Benny, they sending it to Henderson.
He said he had it fixed, so.
All right.
Item 6, beer and liquor licenses.
You have one queue in, Mr. Alborough?
Yes, for the special events permit for the Bell Chase Rotary Foundation, for their cornhole tournament at the government complex.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, I have one. The owner is Big Drink LLC, doing business in the trade name of Suds Tavern at 106 Barrier Road for liquor class A10 renewal.
I have one Iguanas Daiquiri Express, 36179 Highway 23, Buras, Louisiana. And that's it.
I'll offer.
Mr. Roussel offers, I'll second. Machine's open. They pass 8-0.
Item 7, building permits. 7A, construction permits. 7A1, Brad Schmidt, application number 2022-286, dated March 17, 2022, install pilings for shed and covered slips with docks. Lot number 127, Marin Lane, Happy Jack, Councilmember LaFrance.
Then you take,
Okay. 7A2, Brad Schmidt, application number 2022-287, dated March 17, 2022, install pilings for boat shed and covered slips with dock. Lot number 128, Martin Lane, Happy Jack, Councilmember LaFrance.
And 3.
Pete Vujnovich, application number 2022-288, dated March 17, 2022, install pilings for boat shed and covered slips with docks. Lot number 147, Martin Lane, Happy Jack, Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered.
Mr. LaFrance offers, there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Blink. Any questions? Machine's open. Passes 8-0. Can you take 4, 5, 6, 7? In global?
Yes, sir. 7A4, Martin Energy LLC, application number 2022-328, dated March 24, 2022, install and maintain a land-based drilling rig to drill the AO392 number 2 on an existing drill site, Empire Oil and Gas Field. Councilmember Blank. 7A5, IMT International Marine Terminal, application number 2022-329, dated March 24, 2022. Repair an existing dozer trap project, involves grading storage area base and repaving storage area base with soil cement. 18559 Highway 23, Port Sulphur, Councilmember LaFrance. 7A6, Helix Oil and Gas Company LLC, application number 2022-339, dated March 29, 2022. Emergency repairs to an existing 6-inch bulk pipeline. No, after the fact application, North Black Bay Field, Councilmember Bartholomew. 7, Helix Oil and Gas Company LLC, application number 2022-341, dated March 29, 2022. Emergency repairs to an existing 8-inch pipeline. After the fact application, North Black Bay Field, Councilmember Bartholomew.
Do I have an offer? Offered by Mr. Arbel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. LaFrance. Any questions? Machines are open. Passes with 6 and 2 abstentions.
7A8, Venture Global LNG, application number 2022-360, dated March 31st, 2022. Improvements to an existing dock B-1, by installing 7 48-inch mooring, breasting dolphins, and improvements of existing fill area on the Batcher and existing parking lot, Point Celeste area. Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered.
Mr. LaFrance offers. There a second? Second by Mr. Roussel. Any questions? Machines open. And passes 8-0.
7B, Shady Oaks RV Park, Frank Daigle, Trailer Park Renewal, Shady Oaks Lane, Bellchase, Louisiana. Councilmember Blank.
To offer.
Mr. Brink offers. There a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Roussel. Any questions? Machines are open. It passes 8-0. Next one, please.
7C, River Oaks RV Park, Billwood Smith Jr., Trailer Park Renewal, 26287 Highway 23, Port Sulphur, Louisiana. Councilmember LaFrance.
Mr. LaFrance, your offer?
Yes, you don't want to take D and E?
No.
Okay. So offered.
Mr. LaFrance offers. There a second? I'll second. Any questions? Machine's open. Next item.
Item 7D, Bell Dance LLC, business occupancy, 14079 Highway 23, Bell Chase, Louisiana. Councilmember Blank.
Mr. Blink, you offer?
I'd like to offer.
Mr. Blink offers. There a second? Second by Mr. Earlborough. Mr. Blink?
Yeah, sure. This is for a new business, but that's been ongoing. It's almost like a bit of an after the fact type of thing. There've been a number of noise complaints from the neighbors, people parking in their yards and such. I think that there maybe some checks and balances haven't been happening, and I can't support it.
Any other questions from the council? Administration? Audience? State your name and address for the record, please.
Steve and Cindy Becknell, Bell Dance LLC. You know, the purpose of this was to host some items at Bell Dance. Over the past, we have had some functions that were done by family members. And there was two things that were identified and were addressed, and that was noise and parking. So what we've done to try to mitigate this, you know, I can't fix it unless I know it's broke. If I know it's broke, I'm going to fix it. What we've done is we've gone out and bought digital sound meters that'll be put on posts on the property line. We've also gone out and bought analog logging devices to log the sound waves. We plan on, you know, this came from a wedding, my cousin's daughter's wedding. It got loud. I'm going to admit to it. It got loud. Music was the kids' music. We don't want that. That's not what we want. That's not what we're going after. You know, but all of our stuff ends at 10 o'clock at night. Nothing goes past that. The other one was my oldest son has a retirement from the military. And unfortunately, my daughter-in-law made this statement without clarification of, if there's no parking there, park next door. Well, she didn't say which next door. So consequently, 5 or 6 vehicles parked on the lane next door to us. We got that taken care of and done. So what I've done since then is, you know, the requirement that was stated to me was that for every 100 square foot of area, you need a parking lot. So when we calculated everything up and all the data has been sent into the parish, and y'all had that, it wound up that we needed 92 or 93 parking spots. We've developed 111. And that's not including inside my barns and all that kind of stuff. This is actual areas that's outside the barn that is a parking area, that has a walkway from the parking area to the venue. So we have addressed those areas. You might not have heard about it. We've heard some other things that were told to me over the last couple of days, which really kind of infuriates me a little bit. You know, somebody said something about, oh, he's such good friends with the sheriff that when somebody calls and makes a complaint, nobody comes. That's not right at all. There's been 2 times people have been called and the sheriff sent somebody down. I can assure you, I'm assigned to 2 special operations group at the sheriff's office. Yeah, I'm friends with the sheriff. But I guarantee you he holds us to a higher standard being in special operations. So, you know, with that said, I doubt that little old ladies coming to learn how to plant orchids and do this kind of stuff is going to hell race through the property. You know, I have 5 post-certified deputies that walk plain clothes when we have an event at the place. There's nothing that goes on there except for imagination. And what I need, you know, I'm a reasonable person. I'm going out of my way to do this and do it right. And I just want some common sense when it comes to this decision. That's all. You have anything you want to say?
Well, I mean,
Can you step up, please?
hi, my name is Cindy Becknell. I think a lot of y'all are hearing wedding or wedding events, and that is really the furthest thing that we really want to entertain. Our cap is at 125 people if we do host a wedding, right? But we're going after like the Orange Festival teas and hosting the Queens and hobby meetings, and we did a function, a 90th birthday party for Mr. Lapine here. And we're doing other functions that have nothing to do with the fabrication that people are walking around drunk, parking on people's property. It's the furthest thing from the truth.
You know, we looked at the wedding situation explicitly because we knew that there was going to be an issue. I said, we take responsibility for that. It was an issue. I'm not going to deny it. So there was over 200 people at that wedding. So what we've done, you know, we collapsed everything down to the max is 125. Max. We're going for like the 60, 65, 70 kind of people. You know, no more outside bands. Or what do they call the other guys with the
DJs.
DJs.
We're
We're not do that anymore.
We have an event space now.
We have an event space which has its own music, and we prefer to use that. We wanted to be cautious to say, oh, no bands whatsoever. Then if you got a group that comes in with a string orchestra of 3 people, that's a band. Then we're going to be fighting uphill again. It's not worth it. So, you know, we have control of our property, and we take control of our property. So if I don't know it's broke, I can't fix it. But if it is broke, I will fix it. I can assure you of that. So does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, certainly. So, you know, I do appreciate your comments. This is the first time I've ever seen or met y'all, or heard from y'all, in the complaints coming from elsewhere. I've had a long rapport with those folks, maybe even going back more than 6 months. Never met y'all, and I mean, if y'all were trying to develop this business, wouldn't you want to contact your council member? Have you been in touch with Trudy?
Everybody's been invited, and people have chosen not to come.
What are you
I
talking
can't
about?
help that.
We've invited almost every council member. And the other thing, anything that's been hosted at our farm, as I call it, has been family related. We've had my son's retirement from the military. I've hosted my niece's engagement party. Yes, I know Mr. Lapine. Been friends with him, had many parties for him. We hosted his 90th birthday party.
You look
Not
young.
his.
You look young for 90.
Not yours. Right. We've had a Marine retirement that was a dear friend to me. So I know you're going to hear things that we're already having all these events and all these things going on the property. Every single one has been a family related. And in the last 3 years, we've had 2 weddings, both relation.
Yeah,
My daughter
Yeah.
and my niece.
Laura,
3 years.
Here it is. You know, we're about to vote on this item. I've, you know, got a long relationship established with these other folks. They, you know, calling me at 10 something at night, having to call the police on their behalf because nothing's happening. And, you know, if y'all would have come to me, you know, much earlier, maybe we could have gotten something going through the justice of the peace or something like that. And here it is. I mean, we're about to take the vote, and I've never met y'all, and y'all are coming here like pretty defiant. It's just, I can't support it.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
The sheriff's on the queue.
In the queue.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna ask if we could maybe defer it, because I got an introduction today, because I got the same problem. I got the people around there to meet with the daiquiri shop.
Yeah.
And I left it up to the people if they wanted to give them the permit, because they never had a permit to start with. They never had an alcohol license, but the people agreed, let them have it. Since then, 2 years ago, I get calls every weekend, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And the ordinance reads from 6 to 8 p.m., it's 79 decibels. From 8 to 6, it's 76 decibels. So I'm dropping it down to 50.
Should be 50.
And, you know, if
Ours would be rated at 50.
if you want to maybe defer it, we could come out with some machines, get the sheriff's department with the machine, maybe get you and the people that's against it to talk about it and see where it goes.
That's the problem.
You can't talk. You can't resolve anything.
They refuse to talk to us. They refuse to come over and have any kind of meeting. We've bent over backwards to try to come to some type of resolution that it's not what they have conjured up in their mind. It's not at all.
Well,
It's garden club meetings.
I could understand if I'm in my home where I'm
Oh,
I'm 60 years old, and so I don't want nothing next to me because I can't sleep as it is. So
But the kind of things that we get approached about, yesterday we called for a 50th anniversary for the Knights of Columbus from like 5 in the afternoon to 7. Those are the kind of things we're going after, not the big. Look, I'm a grower. I grow orchids. I'm there 7 days a week. The big wedding venue is not what we're going after, I assure you. It is the smaller garden club. We're hosting a garden club at the end of May. You know, little old ladies that I'm showing them how to repot an orchid. We hosted the Queens past festival. All the past Queens, we had a brunch there at the farm. Those are the things I'm trying to tap into and go for. Bridal showers, wedding showers. Not the big to dial weddings. And when you tell people that call for a wedding event, our cap is 125, you're eliminating most of the market because most first weddings are not at 125 guests. They're a lot higher. So we tell them 125 and they say, thank you very much. Not interested.
thank you, Mr. Alborough.
Yes, thank you, Steve and Miss Cindy. I was able to go to y'all place. It's a beautiful place. Y'all hosted the Home Builders Association. I believe all the council members were invited to that and trying to work relationships with the Home Builders Association to build programming for our parish. Thank y'all for that. I hate to see this. We're a parish that needs an open for business sign. This is something we're obviously lacking in this parish is catering and banquet facilities. And it's would help some of our already established business, our caterers like Mimi's or some others in the parish. How can we say no? We're closed for business on when y'all have done everything y'all said y'all have done, and I know that to be the case. I mean, please, let's reconsider and allow this to happen.
Dr. Gouy?
Yeah, and I think the dilemma I have is the same as everyone else. We know the people on both sides of the issue. I consider friends, both sides of the issue as friends. And what I see is the noise was the problem, and you admitted it was. You've addressed it. The parking was a problem. You've addressed it. In your, and again, we'd need some legal guidance on this, but on the business occupancy license, can conditions be put in regards to the operation, such as no outside music, which you've addressed, decibel levels, which we've discussed, parking, which you've addressed. If that could be done to the satisfaction of those who are opposed, I think we don't have a problem. But that's me. And I'm talking to both of y'all because I love you both. And y'all can't talk to each other. It's not my issue.
True.
But my issue up here in having to make a decision is if there's been issues that have been a problem and have not been addressed, I can't deal with that. But if there's issues that were a problem that have been admitted and have been resolved, I see no problem with issuing the license.
Now, I could say that I wasn't invited by the Home Builders Association. They don't like me too much right now, but
Right.
somebody did invite me, but I didn't, being down the road, I don't have time to get up here to, but
Yeah, Bill, nothing down the road anyway.
yeah.
If we defer, will y'all come out?
Yeah,
Will you come visit?
but I'd like to get,
I need a commitment from all y'all.
and I'd like to get,
I made my commitment. She
Yeah.
get her commitment.
can we let some other people talk? And
Sure, that's fine.
thanks.
My name's Mark Navarre. I live right next to the property along with my 80-year-old mother, Shirley Becknell,
who is family members with them. They did have 2 weddings there, and the music was loud. I called Richie along with the sheriff's office 10:30 at night to try to get the music turned off. It's on recorded line at the sheriff's office, so we can all look at that and listen to it or get the records. Richie called. I was told by a deputy that was working, the deputies that were working the detail said, "We got this. Don't worry about it. We're going to take care of it." Until I called Jerry Terlich himself at 10:35, the music was still going. He got it turned off. And Richie knows because Richie called too. So when you call the police for a problem, and he works for the sheriff's office, as he said, a high-ranking with the sheriff's office, he's got 2 or 3 deputies working on his property. He's got 5 deputies. Of course they're going to do what he wants. He's paying them, especially with the details. So they did park in my yard. Not once did he offer to fix any tracks or on my water line, me and my brother's water line. This is the 3rd time that vehicles from his property went on my property. One, a delivery truck went across my water line. I told him about it. He never fixed it. The 2nd time, he had a dump trailer full of debris that was working on this facility that when he purchased the land, me and my mother both asked him. Mr. Lawson, Mr. Frelich was totally against it. They were both having health issues, just like my mom is having health issues over this situation. So if y'all do nothing, at least help the lady who's having health issues over it. I mean, it's not right. If this was next to any of y'all properties, y'all wouldn't like it. Trudy, if it was next to your mom's place, you're not going to tell me you wouldn't try to stop it because it would be too loud. The music was booming so loud, it was shaking the pictures in her house. She's calling me crying. Not once did he say, "Hey, Mark, I'm sorry." He don't come to me. You're right. I'm not going to go to him because I'm not trying to shove her, just like the bridges in the closures, the road closures are being shoved down everybody's throat. He's trying to shove this venue down our throat. I'm not for the venue. If they want to have 1,000 greenhouses and raise orchids, 1,000,000 old ladies can come over there because they're not going to cause problems. I get that. As far as the parking issue, he did resolve that after he was made to resolve it. Until then, he wasn't going to fix the problem. He's already had 2 weddings there, and it was family members, my family members too. If he can't control his own family members, how's he going to control people that's not his family members? They didn't care. They had total disregard for my mom who was next door. They didn't want to address the problem at all. So they just figured, we asked him when he bought this property, "Are you going to open a venue here?" And he says, "No, I'm not." Well, his remark was, "I'm going to have a biker club meeting or something there," just as a sarcastic remark. Well, I don't want the biker club there either, but I definitely don't want weddings there. He's got 2 or 3 more weddings that's already booked to be there. He said he's not in the wedding business. If he wants to have parties, let him have parties. Let him have little get-togethers, anything during the day. But the wedding venue needs to be stopped. The music is outrageous. Just like he said, well, we don't want to have a little 3 orchestra band. What if somebody wants 100 people with a big band? It's once he gets the permit, he's going to do it. Who's going to police the police? I can't. Y'all can't, because we can pass any ordinance we want, and we can say, "Hey, we don't want this to happen. This is what we say." You call the sheriff's office, and they say, "Well, sorry, we can't help you because it's my buddy. He works for me." Until Jerry took care of it, it was going to be ongoing. Now, I'm not saying nothing against Jerry. He took care of it. But anybody that works under him or for him is going to try to help him. I get that. But this is not the setting. There's plenty other commercial property all through this parish, vacant buildings. There's a Bell Chase Auditorium they can have weddings at. They can be wedding planners if they want. Plan at the auditorium. Do it at the pavilion. There's plenty of places to have outside stuff or inside stuff. I'm not against that. I'm against having a venue next to my house in a residential area. So, I just, my mom was given this land by her dad and has been living there all her life. Well, a short time when she went to Port Sulphur to live, I lived in the house. And then she came back because they lost their house in Port Sulphur. So we've been there all our lives. And this is family land. We shouldn't have to get pushed out. So, I would like to vote on it, but I would like everybody, when they press that vote, to decide, if this was my mother, if this was my house, I built over almost a $750,000 house there. It was just assessed at the last insurance thing. I don't want that next to my house. I know y'all wouldn't want it next to y'all's either. So I'm not against me. I'm not against the deputies making money. I'm not against Steve and Cindy having a great business. That's just not the right location for it. Go somewhere else. This is our land first. I didn't build after the fact. I built before. And I shouldn't have to be dealing. It shouldn't even be in front of y'all. This should never been presented because it's not the right venue for a venue. It's not the right place. So, I just want everybody, when they press the button, to think of their parents and yourselves if y'all want to be next to it. I know y'all, some of y'all I never spoke with, some I did. And some were for, some were against. Yeah, unless it's next to you, it's not going to affect any of y'all. But y'all need to represent everybody. I shouldn't have to deal with this being shoved down our throat, just like the 4 streets by the foot of the bridge shouldn't be shoved down their throat. So when you vote, I just hope y'all take that into consideration. Thank you.
Mr. Blink?
Yeah, I'm just, for the life of me, cannot understand why I was only contacted by one side of this neighborly issue. We could have been discussing this for 6 months and figuring something out, and just, a blanket invitation to all the council members to attend an event somewhere. I mean, we get 3 of those a day.
Please come to the mic. Thank you.
And look, I understand that. It's just,
Recently, we did suffer damage during Ida. We lost the roof to it. So we literally started from ground zero again. We lost it in the other one, Zeta, and then we lost it in Ida. So we were in the rebuilding process yet again, is why it wasn't brought up like 6 months ago.
understood.
And again, we have addressed the music. We really have. That was a family wedding, what he's referring to. His family as well. We had no restrictions. We didn't say to her, you've got to keep it at 125 people. She was our family. We didn't have the event space. We didn't have the parking. We didn't have the noise meters. We didn't have any of that in place. And of course, being family, do whatever you want. We really did. We didn't think twice about it. We're an orchid farm. It's a beautiful piece of property. That was the one wedding that they're referring to. That was over a year ago. And since then, it has not happened again. So with addressing the problem of the people, and now we can say, hey, you got to keep it at 125 people, right? Now we can say you can't have the music over this decimal. Now we can say the music has to be inside. We're not trying to upset anybody. We're really not. We just want a beautiful, beautiful space for people to come enjoy.
Mr. Cooley. Hi, Mr. Cooley. Sure. Yep. Hi. In your experience with dealing with these matters, what sort of concrete restrictions can we put in place to make sure that there's just not a lot of noise?
These occupancy matters, I'd have to review it and then give you some information.
Well, with the daiquiri shop, we told them they couldn't have DJs. But then we can't stop them from having DJs because you can't take one boy and say you can't have them, but everybody else can have them. Because like I said, I get calls nightly on the weekends, and I tell them to call the police, make a report. Even people emailing the sheriff's office, and one of the administrations for the sheriff's office is telling them to contact me because it's my problem. So that's why I'm dropping it to 50 decibels, and if they go over that, they'll shut them down.
Look, I mean, sometimes the only thing I could do is just be there for people. I don't want to be there for somebody at 10:30 at night. I hate to say it. I don't like having my phone ringing at 10:30 at night because things are.
It really didn't.
But as
It
this
was
is.
the one time, it was the one time. I had my niece's engagement party there 2 weeks ago. My niece, at 10 o'clock, the lights
Went off.
went off. We started locking the doors, and they were like, time to go. And I'm absolutely. And that's another thing. We're there for every event. We're not home, relaxing, letting them do whatever they want. We're there. We're on the property.
Councilmember Newberry, I know sometimes folks in Jesuit Bend might assume they're in your district. Did you work closely with these folks? Were you in close communication with them around this issue?
They had called me last year, said they invited myself and you weren't able to make it. So that was actually the first time I've really got to meet Cindy and Steve. And then I think I attended the home builders a little bit after that. So my question is, so you have an events now, so why y'all here today? Just so y'all can start having wedding events?
No. Everything that we've had on the property has been family. You know, it was my son's retirement party from the military. It was my niece's engagement party.
Kirk's family.
Kirk, yeah, I've had several events at my house for Kirk.
So it's family and friends?
Family and friends. Yeah.
But we want to do it right. So if everybody can get educated by coming and taking the visit, putting the restrictions on that the attorney wants to, I'd say defer.
So, can you just help me understand if you're building a business, if you're really investing in the place, and you're having issues with your neighbors, why wouldn't you directly contact my office and like really try to get in touch with me in some kind of way? I'm pretty accessible. If you ask just about anybody in this room, I'll answer my phone, I'll call you back, whatever. And I feel like we could have worked this out ahead of time, but here we are now. Like all right, I'm done. I yield.
Ms. Newberry. Mr. Blink, what's your?
If there's any if there's any other questions for the audience, I call a question.
Any questions from the audience?
He's asking to defer it.
I just asked for the defer.
We'll go with it.
Let me comment. I'm Donald Valle. I've known Steve about 3 or 4 years, and I can tell you he's a man of integrity. I've met Cindy before, and if y'all have been to that place, it's quite nice. She's an orchid grower. She's been in the Home and Garden Show. She promotes Blackman Parish well. I think that they found out that they had an issue, a problem. Steve and I talked about this. He and I shoot on a team together for the last, 3, 4 years maybe? I've known him. I can tell you, again, he's a man of integrity. When he found out the problems, he says, what do I do? I said, just go talk to Richie. And Richie, I'm going to say something to you, and pay attention to me, because it pisses me off. I'm going to tell you right now. When I went to that shoot across the river to Stella Plantation, I came back and called you and asked you about this and what you knew about it because of the problems that was going on there. I said, so don't go telling me or any of these people that you didn't know anything about it. I can tell you. No, don't start with me. I can tell you.
Look,
I sat there.
Hey, hammer down. I'm not going to take this. Listen,
I can tell you.
I've been in touch with the neighbors for 6 months.
They address the issue.
Here, Mr. Valley.
Both of you two have taken the issues. You know the situation. You know what goes on. My question was, do they even need a permit to do what they want to do? They got a commercial farm down there. They got a commercial grower and orchid place, and they've been having parties and festivals for quite some time. And I guess to the parish, do they need a permit to come here to do what they're doing? Everybody else does it. Everybody else has parties and has functions at their homes in private. I mean, these are good people. I mean, it's unfortunately the neighbors and family don't get along, but that's not your job. We're looking to promote the parish, and like you said before, open business. We're open for business. We need to do that and invite everybody to Platinum. They're good people. Stop. You and I can talk afterwards.
Mr. Garrett, Mr. Garrett, do they need this?
Actually, that's what I was just trying to figure out. What is the application for? I don't have a copy of it.
It's,
It's an occupational license.
occupation?
Business.
I gave him my,
You got it.
Since they doing it as a business, they need occupational license and alcohol permit, huh?
I think so.
They're selling,
If you're gonna rent the venue,
but you can rent. Well, that's profit, it's sale.
I'd like to say one more thing. I don't want this to be deferred. I want us to vote. I want to get this over with. My mom is every night worried, and she's taking medication and everything for this. I don't want this to be deferred down the line. I want this to be voted on right now. If you're for it, you're for it. If you're against it, you're against it. At least we know where everybody stands. I don't want this to be deferred. I want it to vote.
Mr. Blink, what's your
I've asked for a question be called.
questions called?
don't have the ability. He's the applicant.
What about the applicant?
He can withdraw his application. I think he has.
Councilmember Newberry.
Ms. Newberry?
Oh, I thought we were waiting on an attorney.
And it fails 4-4.
Item 7E, Redfish Factory, Anthony Randazzo, conditional approval for one additional trailer park space, 37813 Highway 23, Triumph, Louisiana. Councilmember Konovich.
I'll offer, ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Dr. Gouy. Any questions? Machines are open.
Redfish Grill?
Yep.
There you go.
Passes 8-0.
Agenda item 8, introduction of ordinances and resolutions. I have a few. The first are for Councilmember Konovich. An ordinance to amend Chapter 4, Section 4-7 to provide for the prohibitions on licensed premises and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to make a technical amendment to correct a typographical error in the redistricting plan for the Plaquemines Parish Council and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to rescind, annul, and set aside ordinance number 20-24 adopted on February 27th, 2020, which amended the 5-year capital improvements plan for the replacement Pointe La Hache Ferry Landing project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution approving and authorizing Thomas J. Surpass, Finance Manager, to execute a Louisiana compliance questionnaire to Calder Slavin and Company, LLC, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. In order to amend the 2022 Manpower Structure and Operating Expenditure Budget, Public Health, Animal Control Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance authorizing and accepting of a donation for the Homeland Security Emergency Preparedness Department and to amend the General Fund 2022 Operating Revenue and Expenditure Budgets, Homeland Security Emergency Preparedness Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, upgrade Port Sulphur water treatment plant project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2022 5-year capital improvements plan, various projects, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution to rescind, annul, and set aside resolution number 18-290 adopted on September 27, 2018, authorizing the parish president to enter any and all state entity agreements between Plaquemines Parish government and the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development and/or Federal Highway Administration, which are or will be necessary to secure state and federal funding for ongoing transportation-related projects and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. The next few are for Councilmember Bartholomew. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan replacement Point-a-la-Hash Ferry Landing Project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2022 5-year capital improvements plan various projects and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance authorizing the execution of extension to the lease of Lot B, Port Eads, for a period of 20 years pursuant to the provisions of LARS 41-1217, the leasee having met all requirements of law and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution to amend and as amended readopt resolution number 22-80, waiving the building permit fees for renovations and reconstruction necessitated by Hurricane Ida and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. The next is for Councilmember LaFrance. An ordinance to amend and amended to readopt Section 4 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as amended, and the Comprehensive Zoning District Map, therein adopted by reference, and which is paraphrased thereto with reference to application number 2022-488, dated March 2nd, 2022. A resolution authorizing and directing the parish president or his designee to do all things necessary and proper to negotiate, execute, perfect, and enforce any and all documents required to expend any allocated FEMA hazard mitigation funds from Hurricane Ida for home elevations and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And the last is for Councilmember Blink. A resolution acknowledging climate change as a threat to both Plaquemines Parish residents, culture, and economic interests, expressing the Plaquemines Parish Council's intent to take measures to enhance community resilience to hurricanes and storms through the support of coastal restoration and hazard risk mitigation programs, expressing the Plaquemines Parish Council's support and incentivizing the development of solar, wind, and other alternative energy projects as part of the parish's broader economic development plans and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And that is it.
Sorry, Stacy, we were just surprised by a couple items introduced, so chatting.
Yeah, no communication, so. Okay.
9A1, an ordinance creating a temporary moratorium on new residential subdivisions, residential re-subdivisions, and new zoning classification changes for residential development for 6 or more lots for the areas from Jesuit Bend to the boundaries between Plaquemines, Jefferson, and Orleans parishes for a period of 12 months and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer for discussion. And a second by Mr. Blink. I talked with Mr. Epley, Tommy Surpass. I'd been talking with Matt Cormier. He said he might be able to find money, but I got with Tommy. We're gonna take $2.5 million from the COVID money, CARES Act, and do the fixing of the, I just introduced it today. So if anybody has any questions, did Mr. Cormier ever get with you on that?
I did make a call to Mr. Cormier and we spoke, and yes, he is working it on his end with the state to try to get us some money for that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Ms. Newberry?
So you want to introduce something to take it from the CARES Act money. You wouldn't want to take it to the $5 million we borrowed from FEMA.
We're not getting it yet.
Well, we may.
We may.
If we put it under.
Can't fix a pump station or a water plant with May money.
So I guess my question is, even if it doesn't matter where the money comes from, we still have, well, that's still going to be in the PW? Is that still going to be a PW for Hurricane Ida?
We are going to ask FEMA for reimbursement. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Blink?
Sure. In regard to some of the CARES Act money, there's two main deals, and Todd, you can clarify this, right? Two main things that this money can be spent on, and it's water infrastructure and then public health issues, right?
I'm not aware of all the parameters for that money.
Those are 2 of them.
Dr. Gui?
All that's been lifted. So it basically could be used for about anything.
Tommy said we could use it, and we had the cash, so. Ms. Dr. Gui?
And just for clarification, it was my understanding that you're already ahead of the game in that you've got the information you need to go out for bid.
Yes, sir.
And that I
We
think.
are putting a bid package together.
Correct.
Okay, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Does it
Okay.
have to go out for bid, or can
Absolutely.
the water company can't do it themselves?
Nope.
All right. Any other questions? Defer that item and go back to 8. Introductions.
Item 8. An ordinance establishing a temporary moratorium.
No, we introducing.
Oh, I thought you were doing my item. I'm deferring 9A2.
An ordinance establishing a temporary moratorium on new subdivisions and re-subdivisions for residential development, creating 6 or more lots for the areas from La Recite Levee siphon north to the parish boundaries with Jefferson and New Orleans parishes for a period of 12 months and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Thank you. 9A2 is deferred.
9A3. An ordinance approving an amendment to an original servitude agreement between Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District and Plaquemines Parish Government, and authorizing and directing the parish president to execute the amendment whereby certain land owned by the port will be subject to the original servitude, all is more fully described in the amendment, a copy of which is attached as Exhibit A, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Konovich.
I'll offer ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blink. This is for our infrastructure going across Venture Global's property that we need to. They need to move the water pipes and electricity and all, right? Any questions? Machines open. Passes 8-0.
9A4, an ordinance to amend and amended to readopt Section 4 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as amended, and the Comprehensive Zoning District Map therein adopted by reference, and which is paraphrased thereto, with reference to application number 2022-489, dated March 2nd, 2022, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Konovich.
I'll offer ask for a second. Second by Dr. Gouy. This is a piece of property we rezoning to sell for surplus property. Any questions from the council, audience?
This has changes.
Go ahead and read them.
On line 13, insert favorably adopted resolution number 22-3 dated April 5th, 2022. And that is it.
I'll offer with those changes. Second by Dr. Gouy. Any questions?
Yeah, has this property been,
Been appraised?
Yeah.
And
so we changing the zoning and is it getting to be reappraised or? So why are we changing the zoning?
the people who want to buy it
Or
have. Mr. Roussel?
Yeah, I agree with you, Ms. Newberry, that if it's a new zoning classification, it's gonna have to be reappraised at the new classification.
You want to stab at that?
No, I don't want to.
Come on, LV.
We don't have an answer for you, but if you want to defer it, and we'll get an answer.
Well, I mean, we can pass this, but I mean,
I can't answer you.
this is just going out and changing the zoning. We're not selling it today. So we can change the zoning, but before you sell it or sign a document, you can figure it out, I hope.
Noted.
Thank you. Any other questions? Machines open. Passes 7-0. Let the record show Mr. Black left.
Don't you dare.
Item 9A5, an ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of Cynthia Malawson, formerly Collins property, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the map of re-subdivision of a 30-foot 32-foot wide portion of ground into PM1 and PM2, Buras, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, dated December 7th, 2021. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Konovich, and this has changes as well.
You read the changes?
Under section 1, after the aforesaid map of re-subdivision property of, strike out Glenn and Sandra Fleming and add Cynthia Malosson, formerly Collins property. And then where it says lots F1 and F2, strike that out and put PM1 and PM2. Right after, strike out Hermitage Village and Bryant Hammond and Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, and add Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, and scratch out the date January 14th, 2019, revised January 28th, 2019, and insert December 7th, 2021. And under section 2, where it says Bryant, Hammond and Associates, certified Hugh McCurdy III, PLS, strike that out and add Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, and the date January 14th, 2019, revised on January 28th, 2019, strike that out and put December 7th, 2021. And that is it.
With those, I'll offer and ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Dr. Gouy. As read. Any questions? Machines open. It passes 7-0.
Item 9A6, deferred. 9A7, an ordinance to amend and amended to readopt Section 4 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as amended in the Comprehensive Zoning District Map therein adopted by reference and which is paraphrased thereto, with reference to application number 2022-490, dated March 14th, 2022, and otherwise to revive with respect thereto. Councilmember Newberry, and we have changes for this as well.
Can you read the changes?
On line 14, fill in the blank with favorably adopted resolution number 22-3 dated April 5th, 2022, and that is it.
Ms. Newberry, you offer?
Yeah, I'll offer.
Ms. Newberry offers. There a second? Second by Mr. Albro. Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, so this zoning change, this was a A2 to a MH, and this property is located in District 6, north of the wall, and it's located next to another MH, and it's also in an industrial zoning area also, so it's not even surrounded by really residential. So I do agree with the owners changing the zoning, and I ask for the support of the board.
You have a map where this was at?
Yes.
I don't have it.
It's on a riverside, and it actually only holds around 12 RVs, so it's a very small park.
All right.
And it's also gated, and they are upgrading it, so.
Any questions? Machines open. Passes 7-0.
Item 9B, a resolution authorizing the direct.
He said defer all of his.
Defer 9B, 9C.
Mr. Black wants us to go with his.
Item 9D,
Defer it.
9E, an ordinance to amend the 2022 manpower structure and operating expenditure budget and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Konovich.
I'll offer, ask for a second. Second by Dr. Gouy. Y'all could tell us anything about this?
Yeah, this is, we had created a position last year for a resident inspector within the engineering department. We were not able to hire a resident inspector based on the salary we have, and we could not get anybody qualified through civil service. So this is taking the money out of salaries and putting it in professional services, so we can hopefully find a resident inspector in a professional services contract.
Thank you. Mr. Roussel?
This is for a request for proposal for a professional, or is this for
Just move the money.
contract that's already existing like Zach?
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
Is this for a new contract, or is this for an existing contract that we have in place for Zach or one of those?
No, it would be for a new one.
And this will be for a resident inspector.
Yes, sir.
Are you gonna present that to us so we can see what it is when you get it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Blank?
Is this for one of those, it's not for FEMA stuff, is it? Looking at buildings? 50% damage and such?
We're unfunding it, huh? We're unfunding.
No, sir. This is, for instance, the Jesuit Bend levee lift. We were going to use an in-house resident inspector to try to save money. We were not able to hire an in-house resident inspector. So if we put it in professional services, it's possibly we could hire an outside contractor to serve as a resident inspector for Blackman's Parish for construction jobs like that.
But just to be doubly clear, it's not for any weird, like FEMA Gestapo type stuff, right?
No, sir.
Mr. Roussel?
Yeah, did we advertise for the resident inspector?
Yes, sir, we did.
And was it through a civil service advertisement?
Yes, sir.
We don't get much luck advertising through them. We have to find another way, I believe, to start advertising, because
I agree with you.
I get any response. Okay, that's it.
Any other questions? Machine.
Just for a note, we did hire a gentleman with core experience, but he didn't pass the physical. So we had an opportunity to hire an individual that had some experience in this, but it didn't work out.
I thought he was working with for us.
No, he worked for the cause, but he couldn't pass the physical either.
I'll tell you offline.
We don't need you. We understand. Legal. Let's move on.
Machines open. And it passes 7-0.
Item 9F, in order to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, repair Venice Pump Station project and the Bud Mat Tiger Pass project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Konovich.
I'll offer ask for a second. Second by Mr. Blink. This is to get the money to install the pump engine on Duvic Pump Station. Any questions? Machines open. Passes 7-0.
Item 9G, a resolution expressing the Plaquemines Parish Council's support of resuming federal offshore leasing in the Gulf of Mexico and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Konovich.
I'll offer ask for a unanimous second. Do I have any objections to that?
I don't. I want to be out of the unanimous second for this.
Huh?
I'm going to be out of the unanimous second for this one.
I'll third. I'll fourth.
Any questions? Okay, the machine's open.
Who did you get second finally? Miss Newberry. Yeah, man.
Ms. Newberry? Passes 6 with 1-0. 1 no. Ayes deferred. J's deferred. Okay.
K, an ordinance establishing the policy for Plaquemines Parish government in regard to mandatory terms to be included in all parish contracts for professional and other services and all contracts that extend beyond a single fiscal year, establishing the policy for the Plaquemines Parish government in regard to submitting all signed contracts to the council secretary within 2 weeks of the documents being signed, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Rousseau.
Yes, I'll offer it. Ask for a second.
Mr. Roussel offers there a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. LaFrance. Mr. Roussel.
Yes, this is an item that was vetoed by Mr. Lapine, and I reintroduced it. And I'd like to have some discussion on it because I think there must have been some misunderstanding about the intent of what this really does. And after reading the veto message, I'm convinced that there's some miscommunication or misunderstanding about what it does. Because what we're trying to do here, and I'll defer to Mr. Garrett to give us a little more detail, but if you read what we're really trying to do, we're trying to protect the parish's interest in having language in contracts, professional service contracts, that we can cancel for convenience or for non-appropriation. And, you know, it doesn't apply to all contracts. You know, if we're buying something on an annual basis, pencils or air conditioning unit or something like that, we have money appropriated in the budget, then it doesn't apply to that contract. But this is a standard practice, and you can call a legislative auditor. I've had discussions with them, and they have, you know, said that this is a good, sensible business practice for local governments to protect themselves. And I'm going to yield to Mr. Garrett so he can give you some examples of why we should do this, some Attorney General's opinions if we want to get into all of that. But we're not trying to hammer anything about emergency situations or anything like that, like stated in the veto. So, Mr. Garrett, would you enlighten?
There is a, excuse me, there's a statutory provision that requires that public debt be approved by the State Bond Commission. In Attorney General's opinions and some case law, public debt is defined as an agreement that would obligate a political entity, a local government, to appropriate money in a subsequent fiscal year. It actually came to a head in a case out of Kenner on a 10-year lease of some guy's train set of all things. And the court ruled that because it was a multi-year lease, it was either, in order for it to be enforceable in the out years, it had to be approved as public debt by the State Bond Commission, like you do when you do your multi-year bonds. So what has come to be is to avoid it being considered debt, you place a provision in the contract that states that it can be terminated for non-appropriation without penalty or termination for convenience. Once the money is appropriated for a fiscal year, then you are obligated to pay for that full fiscal year. But for example, in the lease of equipment, for example, you can sign a multi-year lease for a piece of equipment, but a local government puts a provision in there in that lease. A lot of people call it the LMA clause that allows it to be terminated for convenience or for non-appropriation. That avoids it falling into the category of public debt and therefore avoids having to have it approved by the bond commission. It comes up from time to time. It can oftentimes be read into a contract, but it's better to have it in the contract. I know the legislative auditor recommends it, the AG recommends it, so that the contracting party, and I've had experience in my career to deal with particularly out-of-state companies who, you know, all of a sudden go, no, y'all, you know, we have this contract last 3 more years, and y'all have to keep that equipment, and y'all have to give us the money. And you show them the case law, and they realize that they have to take it back. But that's all it does, is it clarifies that the document is not intended to be public debt and therefore will not bind a subsequent fiscal year.
Thank you, Mr. Roussel.
Do y'all have any other concerns or questions about this so we can get them on?
Mr. Russo, this is a difference of opinion. We believe this is administrative duty, and it oversteps your bounds as a council member. This is more of our duties as administration to take on. So my veto message was fairly clear, and we stand by it.
Okay, well,
we have a difference of opinion.
Well, let's talk about the differences of opinion, because I believe if you read the charter, it's pretty clear, Mr. Lapine, that the council sets policy.
We can go back all day with that. Okay, we can go.
Let's finish this discussion.
Okay.
Let me finish.
And can I refresh your memory? okay, on an email that was sent by Mr. Burris to all the council members, when he said, in regards to Mr. Roussel's proposed mandatory contract terms ordinance, Mr. Lepine's veto message outlines the position of the administration. I did speak with Mr. Garrett briefly on this issue at the last meeting. When I return, I'd be willing to meet with him to discuss the issue further. I request the matter be deferred to Mr. Garrett and I can discuss it further. So Mr. Burris asked you to defer the matter until he gets back. He's out of the country. So,
Okay, Mr. Lapine, I don't mind deferring it if he's on vacation. But the point is that when you start coming with this infringement on your authority, then I have to pull the charter out and we have to read the charter. And we are in charge of setting policy. And if you don't want to agree with that, then we got a big disagreement. So I'm going to defer this so Mr. Burris can come back and explain to me. But I'm not going to abandon the idea because it's a good practice. And I don't know what you got to say about this, Mr. Cooley. What do you think?
I don't have anything to say other than what he just read, because Mr. Burris also gave me a copy of that email and asked that this matter be deferred.
Oh, so this is all standing on deferral. I can agree with you to defer it, but I'm not going to give up on the idea, and I'm not going to abandon the authority of the government in the charter of the council to set policy. So when you start talking to me about, extending past that, then we have a real issue beyond what the content of the ordinance is. So I'll defer the item till Mr. Burris gets back, and then we can have this discussion.
Thank you. The item.
Good?
Next
noted.
Item 9L, a resolution asking the Louisiana Legislature to support a constitutional amendment to reallocate severance tax to parishes for the parish transportation funds and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Roussel.
Mr. Roussel, you offer?
Yes, I offer an extra second.
I'll second.
And Mr. Blink seconds. Mr. Roussel.
Yes. What this does is, there's been a cap on collecting the severance taxes by the state and remitting it back to the parish. And we're asking that the state up the limit and send us more money back that we send to them. Any questions?
Any questions from the council, administration, audience?
Yeah, I have a question.
No better?
I just want to know if this is a typo, Mr. Roussel. On line 18, it says 850,000. Then it says on 26, 2,850,000.
Well, it says, whereas present law states that the initial maximum amount remitted to the parish in which severance or production occurs shall not exceed $850,000. That is not a typo. That is what the existing cap is. And if you go down to line 32, it says, whereas Senate Bill 49 raises the maximum amount remitted to the parish to $2,850,000. So what we're asking for is to go from that figure above to the new $2,850,000.
Thank you for
Send it back to us.
Thank you for clarifying
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions? Machines open. Passes 7-0.
Item 9M, a resolution asking Congress to delay the implementation of risk rating 2.0-2.1 as it relates to the National Flood Insurance Program and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Roussel.
Roussel, you offer?
I offer an extra second.
Second.
Yep. Unanimous second. Anybody object? Unanimous second.
First unanimous I got in a while.
Mr. Roussel.
I understand what you said.
Mr. Roussel.
Yes, I'll explain it. What this does is we got 2.0 risk rating, FEMA guidelines coming down on us, and we're just simply asking that the congressional delegation delay it in any way possible.
Mr. Blink.
Sure. I mean, do we need to go further and request residents start calling their congressman directly?
That would be great. But we're not going to send this resolution to everybody in the parish, I don't think.
Any other questions? Machines open. Passes 7-0.
Item 9N, a resolution directing federal policymakers to improve the evacuation routes along the Gulf Coast communities in Alabama, Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Texas, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
LaFrance offers there a second.
I'd like to second.
Second by Mr. Blink. Mr. LaFrance.
As read.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Machines are open. Passes 7-0.
Item 9O, a resolution asking the Louisiana legislature to support a constitutional amendment to provide for local government's input in the industrial tax program and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Blink.
The offer is read.
Mr. Blink offers there a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Roussel. Mr. Blink.
Sure. As you know, industrial developments happen here. They don't have to pay taxes for 10 years. By the time the property goes in the tax rolls, it's nearly worthless. We need to have a say in whether these industrial entities get an industrial tax break or not. This sends a strong message to the legislature that we want to be in control of our own fate here.
It was brought up at the police jury convention that some people are talking about taking it away from us.
Just as a matter, just to update you, I've been following this very closely. The other part of my life, I'm actually a lobbyist, represented the Police Jury Association for years, the Municipal Association, represent the School Board Association. SB 151 by Senator Pope cleared Revenue and Fisc without opposition. Now, there are members who are going to vote against it. There's currently a tick sheet. What this constitutional amendment will do will take the current way the ITEP program is being operated, which is the 80-20 split, but with the ability of the local taxing authority to vote no, and it will embed that procedure into the Constitution. And it has the resounding support of the Sheriff's Association, the School Board Association, the Police Jury Association, and the Municipal Association. So, FYI.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Machines are open. It passes 7-0. Mr. Bartholomew's deferred.
And P deferred. Item Q was voted on. Item 10, approval of minutes from the March 24th, 2022 regular meeting.
Offer.
Mr. LaFrance offers, I'll second. Any questions? Machines are open. Passes 7-0.
B, District 9 update, Councilmember Konovich. Item 11C, District 8 update, Councilmember Blank. 1, Highway 11 status update on repairs and road shaving. 2, shipyard drainage status update, timeline of repairs and discussion on travel lift slip. 3, discussion on resolution number 19-158 adopted May 23rd, 2019, authorizing the president to institute a public notification system to notify the public of closures and openings of the floodgates in the parish. Update on hardware and software. Update on new equipment by USIS. 4, status of the administration's actions on resolution number 22-27, authorizing and directing the administration to obtain RFPs for the Mid-Barataria Sediment Diversion Mitigation process.
Mr. Chairman, since members of the administration that could speak on these are not present, I'd ask you to respectfully put these at the top of the agenda for the next meeting in Point Lahash.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Defer.
These deferred.
11E, District 7 update, Councilmember LaFrance.
Before you start, is anyone from Lake Harmon chair? Okay.
Item 1, update on the levy project from Point Celeste.
We'll do item 4.
Item 4, discussion on airboats running near communities.
Y'all here for that? Thank you for waiting.
State your name and record.
Joey Harden. We've been having some serious airboat issues. Last Saturday night, we had 6 of them come in. They launched between 7 and 9 o'clock, and they started coming back in at 12. It's getting nothing but worse and worse. And apparently, the sheriff's department don't know there was an ordinance on it because we can't get anything done. They refuse to come out there and write tickets. We need some help. And it's just getting worse. So there's a few of us in here. We need maybe some answers. Somebody to help us out. This ordinance? What does it actually state?
Let me ask you this.
The definition of it.
The secretary can provide you a copy of the ordinance, but it is, I haven't read it in a long time. We passed it a long time ago, but you need to get a copy of it. And you say the sheriff won't come out?
We can't get them to do nothing. I even called the Marine Division. The Marine Division tells me we don't have manpower to food and stuff like that.
Let me ask Mr. Guy, think you could pull up an airboat ordinance there? We regulate airboats? I don't know if it's criminal, but.
Well,
I mean,
I don't remember. You couldn't run it unless it was a navigable waterway, and you can't run it across anybody's property.
Well, it is 2 miles from residence.
He's gonna pull it up and we'll see what we got.
Yeah, because we need some serious help on this. It's getting aggravating.
Actually, the only reference to airboat that I see is in section 6-10, it's trespass by airboat is prohibited. And it essentially, prohibits somebody from crossing private property with an airboat.
No, we have more than that.
Yeah.
Let's see, I'm gonna apply to municipal.
Right.
I'm in the
Unless they
process
spelled
of
it.
working with somebody to draw up a new airboat legislation. You're getting all these people from out of the state even.
What the bad problem is all the ones that's coming back there don't live there. They come in there whenever they want to come in there, they just launch. And then some of them will take their boat and their truck and go over to Richard Cotton's place and hide out over there. And then when they come back in, they'll go back to the boat landing, load the airboats up, and then they take off.
And there's also a provision that prohibits the operation of an airboat between 9:30 p.m. and 4:30 a.m. within 2 miles of any residence on private or public property.
So what's the penalty for that?
And then it shall be unlawful for any commercial or recreational airboat to operate at more than 5 miles per hour within 1/2 mile of any residence within the boundaries of the parish.
Is there an ordinance number that you could see what it says or whatever?
Let's see. Penalty is a fine of not less than $50, no more than $500.
We're gonna have to up the fine maybe.
Sir?
Might have to up the fine.
I wish I would because I'd like to get some sleep.
No, we're trying to work this out and see where we've got to go with it. $50 to $500 fine. That's,
Mr. Blink?
Yeah. This is a problem behind my house too. I live on the back levee canal in Empire and Narren, and I mean they'll have people come right up to the back levee where I can see the lights on the airboats. And I've went out there in my skiff at 10:30 at night, and these guys are in the fog. They don't know where they're at, what they're doing, making all kinds of noise, and it's a hairy situation. You get out there, they got a bow in their hand, and I'm like, hey man, I got a meeting in the morning. I'm trying to get some sleep. If it's a weekend, I give them a little grace. But I mean, it also tears up the marsh behind my house. It lays it down. It's already got enough issues to hurricanes and sinking and all the other stuff. And, we need to make those rules a little bit stricter. I've got mixed feelings about limiting certain types of craft. But the thing is, an airboat, it's half airplane, half boat. It's a noise nuisance. And, a lot of these folks, it's not like they're even out there doing it for fun themselves. They're running businesses that are clearly causing you some grief here.
running them, like I said, last Saturday night from 7 to 9, we didn't hear nothing but airboats. And then they started coming in at midnight.
Yeah.
And the bad thing about it is you can't write a license plate number down because they ain't got none. They don't have them on there for a reason because they don't want you to be able to write their license plate number down.
Okay, look, let's approach it from this angle. Give the secretary some email addresses. We will send you copies of the ordinance that we just read in its section 6-10. What? Kim has it. We'll send it to y'all. When you call the sheriff's office, if they don't understand it or know it, you can give them a copy of it and we'll provide it to you. And in the meantime, Habo says he's working on some changes. We can up the fine and we can move in that direction. But there is something on the books now that they can enforce.
Yeah, and I asked them, I said, can't y'all come out in the afternoon when we know these guys are putting in, at least have a talk with them or something? We ain't getting nothing out of the police department.
I know, but we don't carry the guns. We just write the law.
I understand.
We'll try to change. We might carry guns.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it that way.
No,
We'll carry the badge.
No, you meant what you said.
Okay.
So anyway, I mean, we sympathize with you and we'll try to address it. And anybody else that wants to make some comments, make some comments now, but it's getting late and we want to try to get the answer to the problem. Give her your email.
You're off. You're off.
Ms. Newberry? Ms. Newberry? Ms. Newberry?
We just want to let you know, this isn't the first time this problem has been addressed. It's been happening throughout the parish, so we appreciate you
why
coming.
they coming to us back down there because they got ran out everywhere else. That's the reason why they're down there with us right now.
They do
Because I ran them out of Happy Jack.
They run them out of Happy Jacks, they run them out of Myrtle Grove. So now they're back there with
on
us.
my land as well. I'm not far from him, and I've caught them 50 feet behind my house on my camera, and I've run them out of there on more than one occasion. They don't obey the no wake. It's a no wake zone. The parish put no wake signs up several times. They don't care.
They can fit under the bridge over there?
They at certain times they can get underneath that concrete bridge, and sometimes they can't.
Right. Sometimes.
Most of the time they don't try to go towards the lake Hermitage itself. They just get out there in the bays. I mean, today even bow fishing, me and a buddy of mine, I was looking for my house, he was looking for his house, and we're looking at the same boat operating. He was probably a quarter mile away.
Well, I've brought it up to the wildlife and fisheries about bow hunting, and there's no way you could tell what size fish that is. You're gonna shoot it.
Well,
get it up, it's gonna be too small, so you're gonna take your arrow out and throw it back over.
Yeah, and you can't hardly get the wildlife fisheries to come down. I tried to get them the other day, and they're like, we don't have anybody we can send down there. So,
thank you.
Okay, can we agree to address it like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That'll work. Thank you. Thank you for y'all's time.
Thank y'all. Any other comments?
Yeah.
Mr. LaFrance?
Yes,
ST, lowercase ST, 7008.
do I have anyone from West Cass Lane?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. State your
David Gilliard. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
I came before the council last June 10th meeting and brought up West Cass Lane being private or public. Right now, I think everybody views it as a private road. I disagree. I gave documentation at that meeting. Parish attorney, Mr. Burris, didn't have it from Mr. LaFrance, is what he said. The next day I provided it on 11th. I got a string of emails from that he needed to get some maps from Dufresne Surveying and Linfield Hunter about how it laid out. Last correspondence I had was on June 22nd. Excuse me? And he was still waiting for information. Somebody was on vacation with Linfield Hunter, and I haven't seen any response since then. On August 5th, I sent an email to Mr. Lapine asking him if he could jog Mr. Burris on this subject matter. zero response. A couple weeks ago, I asked Mr. Lapine verbally about it, and I think he's just trying to brush me off, and he said, it's private. I said, well, I'd like to have an answer in writing and some documentation as to why it's private.
Can you let her put it up on the screen?
Well, I know we got a list of private public roads, but they don't go by that.
Can you?
Can we increase that or whatever? Because the donation of public servitude that my wife and I did with the parish and everybody on that road back in 2002, and this is all stems around the waterline project that finally got done in 2008. And y'all not going to be real, maybe y'all can see back there, the small print can't increase the.
The bottom line is, what does the servitude say it's for? Does it say it's for a street or does it say it's for a water line? I mean, because the attorney's on vacation again.
Donation of public utility servitude.
Public utility servitude, that's why he's saying it's.
Kim,
Okay.
is there a Zoom?
And it goes on, a 20-foot servitude for public utility lines within the existing right of ingress and egress, servitude on a portion of lots, my lot, but everything on the road for everybody. By different surveying, and as shown on plans prepared by Linfield Hunter and Junius, dated October 31st, 2002. Donee, which would be the parish, shall repair, maintain, and upkeep that portion of said servitude upon which said public utility lines are located. So nobody else is bringing this up because I don't think they retained their document. And I'm bringing it up because it's in black and white, and I'm no attorney, but it looks pretty simple to me, straightforward. So I was able to get a drawing from Linfield and Hunter on that portion of the project, and it shows right on the drawing where they delineate a 20-foot servitude. The water line's 2 feet off the road. Without that road, the water line could have never been put in, or it couldn't be serviced if it needs to be repaired at all right now. The holes on our road are ridiculous. Now, this is the Linfield Hunter portion right here, which if we can't increase it, it's tough for y'all to see, but it's down on the low portion of this drawing down there where they have a 22. And that to me is another in black and white. So I don't know what Mr. Burris is sitting here trying to make a decision over, but he never has made a decision.
Use a tractor or something.
David, I had a project, water and a sewage project, and so I think sometimes the constituent is under the impression that when we come and acquire servitudes to put infrastructure, whether it's water or sewage, we have to adopt that servitude. Doesn't mean we're, especially on a private road. So it doesn't actually mean that we are adopting the road. We're just acquiring the right of way to put the infrastructure in. Unfortunately, I'm having the same issue with Wilson Street. I have a resident that feels like we should be adopting the road also because we put infrastructure on that private road and everybody signed off on it. So obviously you signed off on a 20-foot servitude to put a water line. And the way I have been explained from legal is we're just adopting that servitude to put the infrastructure that is needed to provide the service that y'all need, which is water.
I hear what you're saying, but
if you have something,
you need to read what I'm seeing.
I mean,
Mr. Beers,
Donee shall repair, maintain, and upkeep that portion of said servitude upon which the public utility lines are located. Pretty plain and simple to me. So either you put the stuff in the document for fluff, or you do what you say you're going to do. I mean, if that's this general jargon that people put out there in it, and it's not law abiding, it's not legal, not binding, I don't get it. I think you open yourself up to other can of worms sometimes.
Mr. Blank?
Yes, certainly. A couple things, and this is more on the nuts and bolts side of it. Can we get the grader over the bridge there?
Yes.
Okay, so the grader can fit this with what? Okay, all right, okay, that's good. It can go over. Yeah, so got it. How many in your estimation? How many loads of rocks do you think you might need?
I don't believe this up there.
6 or 8? Well, I mean, it sounds like there's a utility in the middle of it that was torn up at some point in time to put a water line, and now it's out of whack. And it says that it need to be maintained.
Right, but I think that you have to get administration to answer this question. You over here already
might.
knows a rock.
Well,
Parish trash trucks go down that road all the time, and they're a big part of the problem. When it rains, those big heavy trucks.
Well, I could tell you if you push that issue, because I had one 3 years ago, they'll fix the lane, but the garbage truck's not going back
Garbage
down.
truck won't go anymore, right? I understand.
I'm just.
Well, that's my problem too. If it's a private road, what's a parish garbage truck going down it? So,
Careful.
yeah, you know. And it's going down there for one homeowner.
I mean, I don't know what fill costs nowadays, but it wouldn't cost that much to fix the road.
And then, hey, I mean, I'm not
It's not
looking to
like
hold
we're
y'all
asking
feet to the
for
fire.
pavement or something.
I'm looking to make a compromise too. Hey, can you come put some fill and spread it maybe twice a year?
Well,
January and June.
you have to get
I mean, y'all fixing to get a bunch of milled material off Highway 23 right here. I already offered to the parish president. On my days off, I'll transport the material for free. Just give me one of the parish dump trucks.
Mr. LaFrance will have to.
Let me say this: we already gave enough rock away around here. We opened up a can of worms. Did you start that?
But Mr. LaFrance will have to get with Mr. Lapine, and 'cause he's not here to answer the questions.
I think he bailed out on purpose. You know?
Well, what we gonna do, Mr. Chairman, at the next council meeting, can we start doing our updates first?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because we need to.
Because once we start our updates, you know, our
I'd like to ask another question when it comes to other roads that are deemed private. I mean, I think there may be some other roads that the parish may be maintaining that are private.
There was a list, and I have it in my office, and it's been there. Marla Cooper had it, and they say the list isn't right now.
And I just, two, for example, West Ravine and the other one being Foster's Road or Grand Bayou Road. You know, I think those are maintained probably by the parish. They're on private property too. So I'm not trying to open up a can of worms. And I know the parish doesn't have any money, and that's the big deal, but I'm looking to make compromise a little bit too. We have a person that actually has the most consumption on that road that's running, as far as I'm concerned, a commercial business. A lot of traffic goes on it. I was told that the council recently grandfathered him for trailer park spots that he had since Katrina and things like that to try to get ready for the VG project. Excuse me?
Charlie Anders?
No, Clay Woodrow.
Charlie Anders used to come in and get his permits on a regular basis.
Oh yeah, and I think he and Clay were the only two grandfathered in down there on the deal. But Charlie's properties are right off the asphalt road now, so it's not a problem there. I mean, that's going to bring more traffic on that road and wear and tear.
Who owns the road? So, I mean, well, let's say, so you think the parish owns the road. Who owns the road? Who developed the road? Do you know the history since you have?
People that had campsites on the road.
Just developed
over
the road.
over the years, everybody plays claim that they did so much. I mean, I've put a bunch of
So no individual.
I put a bunch of fill on it over the years. Every time I, get something, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get into that free rock that Mr. LaFrance had evaporate down in Diamond and wherever.
It wasn't one of the good old boys.
And she's got
everybody knows about that.
I want to bid on that project too down there too for Diamond Park.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next item, please. F,
District 5 update.
District 5
Thank
update. Deferred. Council, Member Newberry. Deferred. 6. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Roussel, second by Alborough. Machines are open? Huh?
Councilmember LaFrance, Councilmember, thank you.
Passes 7-0. Let the record show we adjourned at 8:42 PM. Thank you.